So, with episode 24 of the Geekdom101 podcast, we began a three-part series looking at Quentin Tarantino and his career, starting with episode 24, which originally aired on July 22nd, 2019. I was joined by Brandon Draven once again, and we discussed the history of Quentin Tarantino. We looked back at Tarantino's entire history of film, starting with Reservoir Dogs. We talked a little bit about Pulp Fiction, Jackie Brown, Kill Bill, all the way to Hateful Eight. And if you like movies and if you like Tarantino, I think you'll enjoy this show a lot. And also keep in mind that that's episode 24. Episode 25 and 26 were a deep dive into Pulp Fiction, which is my favorite movie of all time and a complete masterpiece from 1994. So it was a three-part series, and it was a lot of fun to record with Draven, and we really got granular and got into the minutia of these films. So without any further ado, let's get to episode 24 of the Geekdom 101 podcast, the Quentin Tarantino career retrospective.
And welcome back to the Geekdom 101 podcast. And joining me on this episode, literally the week of the release of Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, he's already seen the film, went to a special preview screening. I have not seen the film, but I will have my review of the film up on World of Geekdom when I do go see it this week. Please welcome to the show, welcome back from the KLB, Brandon Draven.
I got Charlie Wang in one ear, Madonna's dick coming out of the other ear. Give me that book. What's up, man? Oh, we're gonna talk some Quentin Tarantino. We're gonna talk some what does he have? 9 films. This is gonna be his 9th film, possibly his penultimate film, if you believe everything he's been saying, that he only has 10 films in him. And yeah, man, we're gonna kind of talk a little bit about each one of them. We're not gonna go too in depth. We're just gonna kind of skim the top of every one of his films and get people excited for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
You gonna bark all day, little doggy, or are you gonna bite?
Man, that's a great film.
So we're not going to give away spoilers here at all, but you told me before we started recording that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is thumbs up.
Thumbs up. I score on 10. I give it a 9 on 10. It's about on par with the Hateful Eight. It's about on par with Django. Just the new Tarantino, and we're gonna talk a little bit about that. How he really kind of evolved as a filmmaker, and he really just when you thought that he had peaked, he did something like Inglourious Basterds, which kind of that's a film that gets more and more popular and more beloved the older it gets, because I think people at the time didn't know exactly what he was going for. I know I could tell you right here, and I'm gonna get a little ahead of myself, but I did not love that film when I came out of the first screening.
Me neither. I didn't like it the first time I saw it either.
But in seeing it again, and especially focusing on the great performances, because that's one thing about Tarantino films that you are going to get is great performances, because he's such a good director. I love that film now. And again, it grows and grows and grows. I mean, Christoph Waltz, he does a tremendous job as the lead heel. And you know, we have so many. The Fassbender, one of his first mainstream American features, he's in there.
That's right.
In a great performance in the bar scene, one of the most tense performance you're ever gonna get. One of the things about Tarantino films is that he does a great job establishing tension in the films that require it. And we're going to go through a lot of his films. Like you got the Mexican standoff in Reservoir Dogs. You know, you got the Mexican standoff in Pulp Fiction. You got the bar scene in Inglourious Basterds. You know, you got the great in Hateful Eight. I mean, the whole second half is nothing but tension. So right. Yeah, just and then you have in Django, you have the scene with Calvin Candy when he knows what Django and Dr. King are up to. Like, he knows, but they don't know he knows, and that whole scene is so fucking tense too. Like, he just knows how to create tension, bro, and he's a master at it. And you know,
he should probably do a horror movie someday, but all his movies are dark comedies anyways. He even said it himself.
No, they are, and you start to see it as you see the progression of his filmography as it's going along. And so he really is. Besides being a great filmmaker, he's an institution in cinema, because he started another genre of films, like when after Pulp Fiction came out, and you know, he's kind of I've said it before, like, there's no other filmmaker, not James Cameron, not Christopher Nolan, not the Russo brothers, not anybody where when you put the name of the filmmaker in front of the title, that becomes an event for a lot of people. And Tarantino is possibly the only one that's like that right now. And
yeah, we used to have Francis Ford Coppola and Steven Spielberg used to be able to do that, but that was years and years ago.
yes, and Steven Spielberg, because of the you know of the law of averages, his film progression started becoming like less and less as the years went on, and he's older. And he started kind of making 2-3 films a year sometimes. So of course, it's only natural that they're not all going to be winners. So as that started happening, Steven Spielberg films became less of an event and more of like, okay, it's the latest Steven Spielberg film. But because Quentin takes such care of every film that he does, and he does a lot of research, and he's very meticulous about filming the movie. He only does the film once every 3 years or so. So it's actually kind of a big deal because he doesn't actually make enough movies to where he's going to make a crappy one.
Well, that's why he wants to end at 10, because maybe he knows that if he keeps going, it's going to run the risk of making a bad movie.
Yeah. Well, we're going to talk about Death Proof, which is one movie that I don't really like that much. And I'm going to give people the reasons why.
Yeah. And also, there's a couple things of his that I don't like that I will talk about on here. But his main movies are all pretty great. I mean, honestly,
Yeah.
like he's the bottom line is we haven't talked about this ever really on air. Even on KLB, I think we did briefly, which by the way, that's our other podcast, the K Fabulous Lucha Brothers show. It's a very different kind of show than this one. Very, it's all comedy, very dark comedy, much like Quentin Tarantino. But we've talked about it on there. Pulp Fiction, that's one thing that you and I share, is that Pulp Fiction is our favorite film of all time. And it's funny because right now, and now I don't care about Rotten Tomatoes. I think it's trash. I've said it before, but right now, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has a 92% on Rotten Tomatoes, and so does Pulp Fiction. They're both at 92. Even though you and I think Pulp Fiction should be at 99 or 100, no movie's at 100. I think Paddington 2 might be, and that's a great film too. But
it's
Pulp
a pretty
Fiction,
good film too. Yeah, you're right.
That's a great movie and one of my favorites. But Pulp Fiction is our favorite movie of all time. But really, when somebody comes to me and says, I like Reservoir Dogs more, I can't really argue that. Like,
I can't
okay,
argue with them either.
Yeah, because that's right up there. It's right. Like, it's like if that's one, I'm going to use a Chris Jericho quote, bro. If Stone Cold and The Rock are Paul McCartney and John Lennon, then Jericho's Chris Harrison. Let's say Chris Harrison. Chris Harrison's
bro.
John Harrison. George Harrison, bro.
George Harrison.
I don't know why I said Chris Harrison, bro. Maybe I'm thinking of a different movie. George Harrison is Jericho. That's kind of how I feel about Reservoir Dogs and even Jackie Brown. They're like 1A, even though I like Reservoir Dogs more than Jackie Brown.
With the younger cinephiles now, it's Inglourious Basterds, though. That's a lot of people's favorite now. And again, I can't blame them because again, as the years go by, I see the brilliance of that film, and it is a great fucking movie. It's very original, and we're gonna talk.
And we're still waiting for the Kill Bill Bloody Edition to be released. I'm still waiting for that. Like I have not, I haven't bought Kill Bill on Blu-ray because I'm still waiting for that.
Well, I've seen it, and I saw it thanks to Tarantino.
Yeah, you saw it in his theater.
Yes. So this guy, now one thing we got to say about Quentin Tarantino is that he's a very egotistical man. He has
a lot of successful people are, though.
He's got very little humility when it comes to his talent
or his knowledge of movies.
Or he has an extensive amount of knowledge, which is another thing we're going to get to later on, because a lot of people have accused him of being a copycat. But I'm gonna give a justification to his reasons, and I'm gonna differentiate that with, say, Toriyama from Dragon Ball. There is a big difference in what they do, and I'm gonna say.
Wait a minute now. You're crossing. Hold on. You're crossing into enemy territory right now, bro. Well, hold on a minute, because I might debunk you a little bit there.
Listen, bro. Here's the bottom line. Neither man is to blame for doing what they do, because all of us, you, me, everybody listening, we're all a product of our influences. It's just a part of life.
And Quentin Tarantino is kind of one of ours in a weird way.
That's right. And the thing is, I mean, it don't matter if you're into music or painting or movies or whatever. Everybody eventually is inspired by somebody else that came before them, and they take a little something away from that. Now, right. They're not pulling entire characters and scenes like Toriyama, but it is what it is.
What are you talking about? Entire character? What are you talking about?
Didn't he have an alien once? Like a xenomorph?
But that's like a tribute to a xenomorph. It's not exactly a xenomorph. It's a tribute to a xenomorph.
Okay. Did he have a predator?
I don't think so, actually. I mean, he said his favorite movie of all time is Alien. So
Really?
there you go.
That's a good movie. I can't blame him for that either.
Yeah, well, he's a cinephile. I mean, he's straight up ripped Terminator 1 and 2 for one of the story arcs in Dragon Ball and Alien. He's a Cameron fan. He's a Cameron mark. And remember, his whole thing is his big like influences are Jackie Chan. He loves those movies and Western cinema because he always watches American movies. That's like a thing that he does.
So he's like Ghetto from New Japan Pro Wrestling.
Pretty much, bro. Except I don't know if Toriyama has the next 10 years mapped out like Ghetto does, bro.
He might though. He's a pretty brilliant guy. From what
Maybe
I hear.
Tarantino had this plan the entire time, bro.
I
he
don't
was
think
gonna
so.
make his 10 films. So no, I mean, as far as
let me go ahead and finish my story.
go for it.
Tarantino has such a big ego. About 3 years ago, he had a film festival. So first of all, he bought his own theater because he wanted to screen movies that nobody had ever seen. So he just said, "Fuck it, I'm gonna buy my own theater and I'm gonna screen them there, and people could come and watch them."
And he genuinely likes movies. His movies are not. I just want to say this: this guy's not one of those like paycheck directors. Like as much as I respect Jon Favreau, Lion King is a fucking paycheck movie. Point blank, no argument on that. He put no effort into that damn movie, bro. It's soulless. Tarantino never does that. All his movies, even the ones that you might not like, it's his. Like he never. Dude, I think Rum Punch for Jackie Brown's one of his only adaptations ever, and Star Trek could be the second one.
Yeah,
and that's
it.
Like everything else is his own shit. And it's interesting because I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm just saying that the dude really cares about his fucking movies, bro. It's not like
he loves them.
And other movies. Well, he actually cares about the art form of cinema. He's not in it for the money, even though he has plenty of it.
Well, he grew up very poor. He grew up with no dad. His mom raised him. And he ended up working in a video store called Video Village down here in the South Bay by where I live. And that's where he started soaking up all this knowledge. He was a video store clerk for a long time. And then he was an actor before he was a filmmaker. He started but he started writing scripts on the side. And through his connections and going through Hollywood parties, he ended up getting connected with Harvey Keitel, who ended up funding Reservoir Dogs. So really, Tarantino is like the very much networking. He networked his way to having a career, which is a lesson that a lot of young kids should learn because networking is very, very valuable in any field you're in. And so that's how he got in. And he started selling a few scripts. He wrote True Romance and he sold it. And he wrote Natural Born Killers and he also sold that. So before he started making movies, he was already selling scripts, because nobody wanted to fund his movies because he didn't have any resume, so nobody wanted to trust him directing films. So, but when he ended up hooking up with Lawrence Bender, who became his producer for years, Lawrence Bender kind of convinced him to go out there, and then it was this weird happenstance where Lawrence's friend of a friend, and then his cousin and his brother somehow knew Harvey Keitel, and Harvey ended up reading the Reservoir Dogs script. Because originally they only had 38 G's for Reservoir Dogs, so they were just gonna make a movie for $38,000,
which is like impossible. That's like impossible.
So once Harvey got a hold of it, Harvey's like, "I'll hook you up with some money, and we're gonna shoot this for like it's a real movie." So he ended up putting in like 1.5 million, and that was their budget for this film, and for the first film, Reservoir Dogs, and they were off and running, and Quentin was allowed to direct it. And that was it, man. But you could tell already from his first film that this guy had like an encyclopedia knowledge of movie making and previous films as well.
And if you hear his interviews, and also, didn't you say that? I'm pretty sure you mentioned this because I think it's true also. He does commentary for other movies, but not his own.
Yeah, because he says he's tired of watching his own films in the festival circuit, and so he just doesn't want to talk about them. But he'll go like he's good friends with Edgar Wright, so he does all the commentaries for Edgar Wright films, and it's always a pleasure to hear him interview because he doesn't really do a lot of interviews. But when he does, I mean, this guy he knows movies. Like he go into shit, and so
he watches movies all the time, like new ones and old ones. Like this guy, I picture this guy sitting around watching movies all day, literally. Like, and you can't even. He has to be that guy.
No, he is, and the thing is, so he built his own theater at his house, and he collects film prints, which are like film prints in the canister, not fucking files or DVDs or Blu-rays. He'll go out there and he has a big collection of film prints, and then he takes those to his movie theater and he screens them for the people that want to watch them, and he only charges like $8 to get in, which is like You know, I've watched a lot of old films that I grew up watching that I never got a chance to see in the theater because I was too young. I've been able to watch a lot of them in the big screen because of him, you know. And so, again, let me go back to my previous point before we start talking about Reservoir Dogs.
Yeah.
So about 3 years ago, he did his own film festival where he screened nothing but his own movies, and his whole deal was, if you could sit through all my movies, and it wasn't all in one day, it took like a couple of weeks, but he's like, if you could sit through all my movies, all 9 of them at the time, I will have a goodie bag for you when it's over. So a lot of us cinephiles, we went, and not everybody made it. It started like with 200 of us, and then it got all the way down to 180. I think the last count was like 150. So only 50 people couldn't make it all 9 weeks or whatever, however long it took. And so we made it, right?
Yeah.
So he gave us a goodie bag, and in that goodie bag, there was an awesome collectible pin set. He made pins for everybody of all his films, like you know, like Death Proof had the trunk of the car, and then Pulp Fiction had the needle. So it was like a nice little pin set that came in a clamshell VHS box of Kill Bill, which was awesome. I still have it right here. And then he gave us all Blu-rays of all his films, and then he gave us like a comic book and a hat, and then the grand prize was a screening of Kill Bill: The Whole Bloody Affair, which he never really does. Yeah. So we got to see that. So you
saw it, which is uncut, not black and white, and it's a full 3.5 hour film.
Yes, and it also has different scenes. It has different scenes.
Like deleted scenes?
Like deleted scenes, yeah.
Is it linear or is it still non-linear?
No, it's still non-linear. It's still non-linear.
Okay. But it's the best version, though. Like, it is worth waiting for, because everybody tells me it's worth waiting for, and that's why I haven't bought the original versions.
It is waiting for, and actually, there is a torrent flying around from the European cut, because he cut this for the European market. So his print that he has is a European cut, and that's the one that's online. If people want to like download a torrent of it or whatever, that's the one that's out there. But for whatever reason, he's never put that out on Blu-ray. And like the House of Blue sleeve scene, it's all in color and it's more gorier and it's longer. Gogo Jabari, which was the Asian bodyguard, she has dialogue, which she doesn't.
What about Benedict Wong?
He's not in there, bro. Unfortunately. So why don't we start talking a little bit about Reservoir Dogs?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was trying to see if there's anything else you wanted to talk about. I mean, we don't have to go through his entire bio, like, you know, but that's essentially what happened. And it's funny because I believe because of the Weinstein scandal that this movie coming out now, Hollywood, first movie the Weinsteins are not involved in, that he's done.
No, the first one also wasn't. The first one was Pulp Fiction. Reservoir Dogs is not Miramax.
No, I thought it was Miramax. Are you sure about that?
No, it's Artisan Entertainment. And then later on, it was distributed by Miramax.
Okay. So I'm not going crazy then. Yeah. So Reservoir Dogs, I mean, the thing is, even if he had never released Pulp Fiction, he would still be considered as, let's pretend that Pulp Fiction never existed. Sad world, yes. But I think just with Reservoir Dogs and the other movies he did, he still got a legendary career, even without Pulp Fiction being in there.
Yes, but Pulp Fiction was such a revolutionary film at the time that I don't think he would have had the stroke he has now.
No, but I'm saying it's such a quality movie that the cinephiles would have respected him even if there was no Pulp Fiction, is what I'm saying, because of how strong Reservoir Dogs was. And it's cool because he said in several interviews that Harvey Keitel is his favorite actor of all time. And he got to his first big movie, like feature-length movie, Harvey Keitel's the main character. So I mean,
I don't know, bro. That might be him working. I don't know. I don't know if I believe that one.
That's what he said, but I'm just saying that's still kind of cool that he was able to do that.
So but to your point, this was a big time, like a big time in Hollywood because and I have a point here that had he not done Pulp Fiction, maybe he wouldn't have been that big of a filmmaker. So I'm trying to argue your point here.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm saying that with Pulp Fiction, he still would have been respected even without Pulp Fiction.
Because this was during the time, like I'm very nostalgic for this era of film because this was the early 90s, and that for anybody that studies cinema, the early 90s is very, very crucial in the history of Hollywood cinema because that was the independent boom so it was this big bubble that we were all waiting for because we hadn't had a bubble like this since like the USC class of like the late 70s of like Spielberg and
UFC.
USC, I said USC. UCLA, I'm sorry.
Hoist.
So during the 70s, we had all those great filmmakers that came out, and they kind of changed Hollywood
Francis
forever.
Ford Coppola and those guys. Yeah.
What's the name? Fuck, dude, what the fuck?
George
Anyways,
Lucas, Spielberg, Coppola, that
yes,
whole clique, bro. They were all together in college.
the Yaska.
Sure.
So there was a law. There was a law. Lull.
Hickey Dozan was there, bro.
And then fucking and the Weinstein unfortunately were a huge part of this because they were producing a lot of these guys.
That's the thing. They are. It's one of those like Chris Benoit things, bro, where they have a great body of work, but because of what they did in the real world, it kind of taints that, you know.
Well, only Harvey. The other one's not you know.
That we know of. The bigger they are, the harder they fall, but they don't fall so often.
So,
I thought about that the other day, bro.
But they don't fall so often.
The warlord, bro.
So we had this big explosion, and you're talking about Kevin Smith, you're talking about Peter Jackson,
Clerks.
you're talking about Jon Favreau with Swingers, you know, you're talking about Tarantino,
Jonathan Demme with also TMNT 90, I think, was a big one because that was a very successful independent film at the time. I think it was the biggest grossing one of all time for years. I think.
Yeah. And then you have there's a bunch of these guys. Robert Rodriguez was
when did Troma start? Do you that was 80s, right? Correct?
Yeah, but that was the early 80s. So you had this big explosion, and the point that I'm trying to connect to this is that with me, at this time I'm like 14, 15, and I'm a very impressionable young kid, and anybody that was into film at that time, all these guys that we just mentioned, they became heroes to us, and it was so cool to not only go to the video store but also to go to the to the malls and pay $20 for one VHS big ass clamshell tape and bring it home. So that's where I discovered, you know, Pulp Fiction and Clerks and all of Peter Jackson's early films, you know, and
Dead,
and then El Mariachi, all these great films that all these guys were doing, and they were doing they weren't using the Hollywood studio system to make them, and that was what's so fascinating about every single one of these guys. And they also would go to all these festivals, the Cannes Film Festival and all that, and they would all click up. So you had this little crew of young guys who kind of just hung around together. And when Pulp Fiction came out, it all revolved around Quentin, and Quentin kind of became their leader, and he kind of took all of them. And to this very day, they're still a very united front. Like Kevin Smith will still call Quentin and ask for his advice, and this, that, or the other thing. I mean, you know,
they're both known for their great dialogue. That's kind of the thing that those two filmmakers are known for. Even though I do feel like, and I said this in my video on World of Geekdom about Jay and Silent Bob reboot, I do think Kevin Smith fell off. I mean, I know he hates hearing that.
He did fall off, but he didn't evolve is what happened as a filmmaker.
And that is one thing I'm worried about with the reboot is I don't want it to be – I'm nostalgic for the Jay and Silent Bob era of the late 90s, the View Askew era, early 2000s, but it just we can't go back to that again. But again, we'll see how it goes. But I feel like Tarantino with every film, and we'll talk about it as we go deeper into his filmography, but – he became this director where he was more ambitious. Like you have these like crime movies. His first 3 films were crime films. Then you have this really weird sort of Eastern movie he did, which was Kill Bill, influenced by anime and by Kurosawa and all the great Asian filmmakers.
Kung Fu, and then like the spaghetti western.
The Wu-Tang. Yeah, and then you've got like these period pieces. So you've got Inglourious, Django, Hateful Eight, and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, which are basically fictional period pieces that take place in the 1800s and the what is Hollywood? That's in the 60s, right?
69, yeah, 1969.
69. Django was in the civil rights era or civil war era.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was in the civil rights era.
That's right. But and then of course Inglourious was in Nazi Germany. They're fictional, like historical I don't know what you'd even call them. They're like historical fiction, but they're wacky historical fiction. But they're still like period pieces. Like he still cares about making things accurate to the time. Of course, it's not going to be 100% accurate because otherwise it wouldn't be Tarantino. But you're not going to see, Calvin Candy driving an 85 pickup in Candyland. You're going to see him act like how, what would you call somebody? A slave
racist,
owner?
Yeah, racist slave owner.
Yeah, slave owner. Yeah, like that kind. There's another name for those guys, but you know, and that's what he does, and that's kind of been his evolution as a filmmaker. He's done a lot of. That's his last 4 movies. He went from crime to just straight up period pieces.
Yeah. So that's here we are with Reservoir Dogs, and again, I'm very nostalgic for this era just because of what everything I just talked about. Just discovering all this shit was so cool, and I'm so blessed to have been part of that because, you know, as a young kid, like we don't have that. We haven't had that in years where you have all these great filmmakers just fucking blowing up. And of course, like social media has kind of killed everything because nothing is mysterious anymore. Like these guys were bigger than life to all of us, you know. And nowadays, because of social media, everybody's kind of normalized, you know. And that's kind of tragic because we don't get to have these heroes anymore. We have heroes, but in different ways. So that's why Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are a great 1-2 punch for me personally because they came at a time in my life where they made a difference in my life, you know, and when I saw that, like anybody,
and they still hold up.
Yes, and anybody, like none of these guys had an in Hollywood, bro. Like nobody, like Kevin Smith was living in Jersey. He maxed out his credit cards for $27,000 to make Clerks. Like Tarantino was working as a video store clerk. Like, so you see these guys and they're like Robert Rodriguez went to to donate blood for like months to fund Desperado or El Mariachi. So you see madness. These guys and you're like, if they could do it, I could do it. Like, so there was this big, like, they were so influential in that way. And plus their movies were fucking awesome. And for somebody living in like an urban neighborhood, like these movies were not like artsy fartsy, you know, things that only white people could relate to. These were like the old school fucking just wang bang, thank you ma'am, just shoot 'em up kind of films that we all saw as little kids.
Well, also with Clerks, it was influential because it was a super low budget film, and what carried the movie was the script and the characters. That movie has like 0 special effects. It's the lowest budget ever, and it made Kevin Smith. It gave him a career. But and we'll do another show on that movie if you want someday. But I mean, that film influenced so many because it shows that if you're really talented, you're funny, and you have good characters, it could work. You don't need special effects to make a movie work, and he proved it.
That's right. I've always said that. As somebody I've watched some basement-worthy films, and I've watched some, you know, $200 million epics. And if the story sucks, the story sucks, right?
Yeah.
So it's all about story, and it's all about being a good writer and having a tight script. And so that's what we're gonna get to here in the first film we're gonna talk about, Reservoir Dogs, which came out in 1992, and this is the one where people started to see that this guy had talent. Like nobody knew who he was, but this film started like the word of mouth built in the festival circuit. So that's really, and a lot of these films, even to this day, if anybody, there's any aspiring filmmakers out there, and you have a good movie and you throw it on all the festivals, people will talk about it. And even now more on the internet, and people you get that buzz. You know, we had a lot of films like for example, like the movie The Witch. You know, like Hereditary. Hereditary built all its steam in the festival circuit.
Yeah.
And then once they put it in theaters, it blew up because it already had that foundation of hype from the festival circuit behind it. So this is really where an independent filmmaker kind of could get his chops, is going through the festival circuit and just having people just talk about how great their movie is. You know, on the negative side of that is that if the movie sucks, they'll bury it, but that's not what we're talking about here. So
right.
so Reservoir Dogs was one that had that. It built that momentum, and it became very influential because Quentin established a lot of things. First of all, he had that non-linear. It wasn't as non-linear as Pulp Fiction was because this one just had different things going on at different times, but actually the story itself is not all convoluted like
Pulp Fiction. It was very much like Rashomon in a way, where it's like a present time story with flashbacks that tell you what happened leading up to it. Because the beautiful thing about the movie, and this is what Tarantino himself said on Charlie Rose Show, is it's a heist movie without the heist. You never actually see the heist. All you see is the characters talking about the heist building up to it, and then what happens after. You never see the heist. In fact, the closest you come to seeing it is when they show Mr. Pink running from the cops. That's all you see. And what I love, and I'm going to put this over right now, about the Reservoir Dogs video video game, which I'm not really sure if Tarantino was involved. I think he was involved. Is it did show you more of the heist. It showed you what happened to Mr. Blue. Like it actually, it's almost like that game was like the deleted scenes from the movie. And I think it really opened up the movie and it showed you more. So if you haven't played that video game, it's an older game, but it is, if you're a fan of this movie, I know you don't like video games, but maybe you should just look at the cutscenes because it's pretty cool stuff that they did. But I'm just saying the movie didn't even show the heist, and that was a no back then. Like people don't, you can't like build up to something and not show it. That's like a thing that you're not supposed to do in movies because everybody teaches you show, not tell. Let the characters act, not the dialogue. Let that be the case. They didn't show the heist. We still don't know what happened.
Well, that was the whole thing about it, is that the heist essentially becomes a MacGuffin because it's just there to motivate the characters. It's for the people that don't know what a MacGuffin is, it's just a tool to get you from point A to point B.
It's literally a prop, bro. It's a prop.
Literally, that's all it is. It really, and same thing with the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. Same thing with that stupid fucking key in The Last Jedi or whatever the fuck they were going after. What was it? The thing that they were going for that was
Force Awakens. No, I mean you're right. But the movie's really about not the heist. It's about what happened during the heist and how the heist went wrong. And really, it's the story of Mr. White and Mr. Orange. And Mr. White and Mr. Orange, it's a very interesting life lesson for things that are going on right now in the real world, because Mr. White throughout the entirety of the film, and I don't think I want to spoil it, even though it's really
no, we gotta talk spoilers, bro.
Okay, if you haven't seen these movies, I do recommend marathoning them before coming back and listening to this. This is going to be mostly for people who have seen the films. I want to warn everybody because the movie has some good twists. Let's be real about it. If you've never seen it before.
But it also one thing about Tarantino, there's a term that cinephiles use. It's called pure cinema, and that's when everything on screen has to stimulate what you're thinking as you're watching it, and that's what a lot of art films do.
And what I was saying is that. You finish now.
Let me just say, because I'm gonna roll here. I know your fans are gonna bury me for cutting you off, but I get excited.
Fine. I have a really good point to make, but go ahead.
Oh, so the thing about this film is that there is so much going on without actually things happening, and that's what makes a good script. Let me give you a couple examples. One of the overarching themes of this film is Mr. White's compassion. He's a very compassionate man.
Even though he's a criminal. It was one of the early films, like The Godfather did the same thing, where you're looking at criminals. These are actual criminals that are humanized, where you can relate to them. And whenever a movie does that well, it's a classic movie. Not a lot of them do it well, though.
Right. That's perfect. You hit it right on the head with that. And the way that Quentin shows his compassion is very subtle. There's that great scene where he's got to take out those cops, right, when they're going after him, and he shows a little bit of remorse. Switch that over to Mr. Pink, who unloads his in a great fucking tracking shot scene where he's running. That's a great fucking shot, bro.
Yeah.
Just a great dolly shot, just fucking boom, boom, boom.
And it's funny when he pulls Lady out of the car. It's comedy. It's dark. It's a dark comedy. Let's be real.
Yeah, and that lady gets shot in Pulp Fiction again, so she gets shot twice.
Yeah.
So Mr. Pink is thinking about survival. He's like your rat or your cockroach. Mr. Pink's entire motivation is to save his own hide, and ironically, he's the one that ends up getting caught. So he's the one that ends up gonna have to suffer the entire consequence of what all these guys do in the end. He was actually the smartest one and the one that wanted to be the professional, but he ends up kind of eating all their sins at the end when you think about it.
We're supposed to be fucking professionals.
You're what is it? You're talking like a first-year fucking thief. I'm a professional.
Right. I love how they have rankings now for, and they brag, and it's just great because you have these characters talking about like things that they've done in the past, bad things, but it's such entertaining dialogue. They're horrible people, dude. But you're right. They show compassion. And the main story, and this is what the point I was going to make.
Go ahead.
When it comes to Mr. White and Mr. Orange, Tim Roth and Harvey Keitel, Mr. White. So Tim Roth did such a good job of pretending to be somebody who he wasn't, that he fooled Harvey Keitel, who is has a lot of experience as a crook, and he let his guard down and let this kid into his heart.
Right.
And it kind of mirrors like a divorce or like a friendship falling apart when you and not when I say falling apart, I don't mean like a mutual one, like somebody betrays you, because at the end of the film, Larry is so hurt at the fact that he was betrayed by this kid that he has to be the one to take him out himself. He knew he was dead. He did not care, because he was crying at the end of the movie. They're crying at the end of the film, and it's so amazing because that kind of stuff happens in real life, but the movie doesn't like tell you that. You don't have like a narrator
come. Very subtle, but that's what makes it beautiful.
That's what makes Harvey Keitel so great, because you don't have a narrator coming in saying, and so he felt betrayed. Like a novel would do that, but this is film. This is not a novel. It's crazy, and it's crazy because the entire time Tim Roth, right, his character is trying to hide who he really is, and he's using Larry. He's using him, but at the same time, as he's using him, he's kind of like softening up to him and saying, you know, if this goes well, and I picked up on this when I watched it, this guy's a crook, but he's taking care of me. So he's also got that guilt too. Like, I have to use this guy to survive, you know, but I know he's a criminal. He's involved in this case, and that's the only friend he had. So it's a very deep movie, bro. His movies are very, very, very deep when you peel away the layers. Same thing. Hateful Eight did something very similar too, because that whole movie is about who do you trust.
Right. And so then we have the Mr. Blanc character. Let me say something about because a lot of people say that Madsen did the best performance here. Now,
he was
one of the things that Quentin used here is that Mr. Blanc is not really in the film that much. He's hardly even in it, but his presence is felt throughout the entire film because of how they talk about him. And that's one of the things that's always been so clever about this film is you know how much of a psychopath Mr. Blanc is before you even see him in action, because all the other characters have already put him over.
He tried to fuck me, Dad. He brought me down on the table and tried to fuck me.
I don't think of you that way. But Chris Penn, bro, rest in peace.
Rest in peace. He was really good in this movie. Stop pointing that fucking gun at my dad.
They should have hired his brother Sean, bro. Nah,
yeah, she was nice, but she wasn't anything special. What's special? Take you in the back and suck your dick? Well, I'd go over 12% for that.
That entire that diner scene, which became a Tarantino staple.
No, listen. I'm gonna interrupt you, but every piece of dialogue in this movie from start to finish is great. There's not a single piece of dialogue in this movie that I don't thoroughly enjoy, and it's really hard to make a movie like that.
Yes,
Chasing Amy did it.
That's another great movie.
Bro, rest in peace, Draven's Driving.
So all rest in peace. That show is lost in the ether forever. Our boy Louis O couldn't get that one, unfortunately.
I wish you had kept it.
So all these tools that Quentin Tarantino is learning how to use in his first film, like again, using what like I call it like the third man kind of gimmick, because that's what Orson Welles did when you have these characters, or the Apocalypse Now gimmick, where you have all these characters that you talk about them so much that you think they're in the film for all this long time, but they're really not really in the film. It's just that aura about them, and I love scripts that do that.
We talked about that when in our, again, Draven's Driving for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You think it's his bloody film, there's no blood. And also the old school horror movies did that, like the first Nightmare on Elm Street. You feel Freddy's presence in the entire movie. In fact, let's give them a recent example. Spider-Man Far From Home. You feel Iron Man in the entire movie.
Yes,
and they
that's
use
a great
visuals
example.
to
That's
throw
a great
it.
example.
They throw it at you multiple times in that movie.
That like Spider-Man Far From Home, like if you only saw it once and you weren't really a fan, and then like 10 years from now, you would think that Tony Stark is in it because you just remember him, but he's really not in it. It's just people talk about him a lot, and he's dead. So just like I said, the twist in this film is incredible. Obviously it led to probably one of the more popular Tarantino scenes. Maybe number one or number two, maybe something from Pulp Fiction is number one, where Mr. Blonde tortures Marvin Nash and he cuts his ear off. That's a classic scene right there, with the song stuck in the middle with you,
which is going to be the opening to the show, I think. where he used
and just the way he uses music, like when Mr. Blanc goes outside to get the gas, how like the song's playing inside the warehouse. That's fucking awesome, dude.
When we get to the Pulp Fiction series of shows that we're gonna do, that we're gonna talk about that here in a minute. Yeah. That's like that has some of the best musical cues. That and girl, dun 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 dun.
Let me put over Tarantino right now. There is nobody, I feel, there is nobody in cinema who knows how to connect songs to a scene. Nobody, because Quentin does that in all his movies, and then from that point forward, every time you listen to that song,
it's
you know, and he does that. He's got such a talent to do that. Like,
and a lot of directors just get a custom score, like they use John Williams, or they use Danny Elfman. No, he's using actual songs and making them work.
Yeah, he got the composer
old songs too
in Hateful Eight, but that was also a cool theme. Like,
yeah, but that was the guy who did all the freaking Sergio Leone movies.
Yeah, the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, he's also a mark for. That's the thing about Tarantino, bros. He's a big mark, and but he's a mark that you kind like. I think when we saw Force Awakens, like as much as Star Wars is like dead now, J.J. Abrams, and same thing with Super 8. The dude is a mark for Spielberg and the old like movie. He's very similar to Tarantino in some ways. Not as good of a filmmaker, even close. But I mean, you can see how much of a mark he is, and Toriyama, how much of a mark he is for certain things just through his cinema.
Well, I've always said that you don't want to give money to make a movie to a fanboy that doesn't know the fundamentals, because they're going to make a mess. But if you have fanboys who understand how to create the art form, they're going to give you some good shit, bro. Just, dude, they love that stuff, and they know how to build it, and that's the key. And so, all these guys that are fanboys like this, they're going to do a good job because they take pride and they enjoy doing it. And that's one of the key things about Tarantino, is that's one thing I was going to tell you off air, is that every time you watch one of a Tarantino film, you could just feel this motherfucker just being giddy behind that camera, because everything is it's an inside reference to something that he knows about. And a lot of these fucking tributes that he pays in these movies, they're like shit that only like 4 people or 5 people have ever seen in their lives, which is even more wacky. And that's the thing that I was going to say, is that one of the biggest criticisms is that he steals a lot of stuff, but I've never seen Tarantino steal something that's mainstream. He'll never go out there and take some shit. But there's a justification there in my eyes, because
you want to talk about City on Fire?
I mean that's very evident. Like that, people should watch City on Fire.
The people who listen to this show, they might not all know about City on Fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah, City on Fire was a film from Hong Kong, I believe, that has literally the same plot. You have the
very similar to this movie. It even looks like this movie. The suits, the business suits. Yeah, he was a big mark for Eastern cinema.
The thieves have colors, have their names.
Chow Yun Fat.
Fat Yan Chow, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
So before we get moving with this movie, let's talk about the big turn here. Because it's pretty awesome. But then I have criticisms about this film. So we have the big turn here where Mr. Blanc's about to burn Marvin Nash, who actually knows who the rat is the whole time, but he never rats him out. So that adds a layer of the tragedy of this film, because Marvin Nash the entire time, he sees Mr. Orange there and he knows he's a cop. And he could have just pointed him out to save his own hide, but he doesn't, which is kind of interesting. And so he's about to burn him alive, Mr. Blonde, and then in a fucking great ass scene, you just hear the gunshots, and then Mr. Orange unloads on Mr. Blonde, and he just fucking empties his clip on his ass, and then they show what a great fucking scene.
By the way, that reminds me, did you know that the guy who made City on Fire, Ringo Lam, that he put a movie out a couple years ago called Sky on Fire? I looked him up. He's still doing these on fire movies.
I think he died recently, but he worked with Van Damme a lot.
Yeah,
he did.
Van Damme. He actually did die. He died in December. That sucks.
Yeah. So this is great fucking scene where the camera first is on Mr. Blonde, and you don't know, because Mr. Blonde's about to drop the Sipple lighter, and then he just starts getting unloaded with shots. He's going backwards, and then the camera tilts over to Mr. Orange, who's on the floor, who's still bleeding, and he just fucking unloads his clip, and then you're seeing Mr. Orange lower his gun, And then he picks it up again, but you don't know why, even though the clip is gone. And then the camera moves back to Mr. Blonde, and the motherfucker's still standing up all the way to the back, and then he just falls down. What a great fucking scene, bro. And that's a big reveal, and that's a big fucking twist, and that's how you make a good fucking movie, bro. And then the movie goes to shit after that.
I don't think it goes to shit. I still love the movie, but I love how that was just a very well executed twist, bro. You know, a good example of a twist in a movie that and then it went to shit afterward is Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Because, you know, I got to bury the movie every time you and I record. Yeah, when Snoke dies, it's a great twist. Kylo Ren betrays him, and then the movie goes to shit after that, after the fight with the red jabronis.
That's kind of early in the movie, bro.
No, it's not. That's the end of the third act.
Really?
Yeah, and then they go to the fourth act, which is the damn Canto Bight fight.
There's no such thing as a fourth act, bro.
No, it is. No, dude, that's a 4-act movie. Last Jedi is a 4-act movie. That's why one thing about Star Wars is most of them are 4-act structures, including that one. Come on, bro. I'm teaching you about movies on this show.
That's not really possible. It's like a mathematical formula. You can't.
Dude, what are you talking about? Shakespeare did 5-act stories.
Who?
Never mind. Go ahead.
No, TV has 5 acts because they got commercial breaks. That's the fact, bro.
No, you're right.
You're supposed to have a cliffhanger before every commercial.
No, I know. Yeah, I mean, it's always he's outside the ring. We'll be right back every week, bro. Every week that's the cliffhanger. Coming up next, Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. That's their cliffhanger every week.
No, I don't mean.
Does that mean that Raw has like 30 acts because it's 3 hours long?
I don't mean the film goes to shit. I mean it just slows down to a fucking halt before it picks up again. Because after we get the big reveal, we get introduced to Mr. Orange's backstory.
Which I love. I mean, I love that backstory.
When he's talking to the black dude, fucking Holdaway,
who's not Sam Jackson,
unfortunately. But this is again, and then Timmy Roth, bro, God bless him. But here his fucking accent. It gets really annoying because it goes in and out throughout the entire fucking movie, dude. And I know that was, everybody's young here and everybody's starting to get the drift, but it's just kind of annoying that he goes from being a British guy to a cop. But I don't know that it kind of slows down for me right there a little bit. That's kind of the low points of the movie. And then you have the other crew kind of disappearing the cars. They have a big dialogue scene that's pretty fun.
Yeah, I think Grier and everything, which led to eventually Pam Grier being in one of his movies.
Yeah, but I think that scene could also been cut. So it doesn't really pick up until everybody comes back and they find out that Mr. Blonde is dead, and they have to get to the bottom of that now. So but of course the ending comes in where Joe Cabot realizes who the rat is, and then that's
I like how he realizes too. He's the only one I wasn't sure of. You're never a man if you don't have instinct, which is true because. Let me tell you right now, bro, every time that I mistrust my instinct, it does bite me in the ass, bro. The force is real.
Well, the Ultimate Warrior did say we all have a compass, and that's all we should listen to.
That's right, but he also said that queering doesn't make the world work, too, so we should just... Don't have an orgasm on me, honey.
That would never not be old, bro, ever.
No, never, bro. The warrior will live forever, bro. Like he said last night, the day before he passed away. Rest in peace, bro. So, rest in peace, Michael Madsen's thin body, also. But, and then we have the Mexican standoff at the end, of course.
Yes,
but
and fucking Mr. White gets 2 shots in. He kills Cabot and he kills fucking wait a minute, who's pointing at who here? Well, no, because Mr. Orange has no bullets left, so he doesn't kill anybody. So. Mr. White
Orange has no bullets left. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Mr. White kills
the Thing. Yeah, and then Chris Penn kills Mr. White, and I think doesn't
Mr. White kills both of them.
Yeah, but no, Mr. Orange ends up killing Chris Penn, I think. No. Harvey Keitel kills Chris Penn.
Yeah. And then Mr. Ping just hides underneath that little ramp, and then he gets the diamonds, and he runs outside where the cops are waiting for him. The cops that fucking Marvin Nash was waiting for him to come and save his ass, but they didn't happen. So that's the movie, bro. It's a great fucking movie.
But about the film, we don't have to go too in-depth into the story, but also the cinematography of the film, I really like it. And it was Tarantino's first time. One thing I love about this movie and Pulp Fiction, his other movies have it too, but I think these two specifically, is it's a very colorful film, but it's not like overly colorful. Like, for example, Natural Born Killers, a movie that was not directed by Tarantino, but he did write the script. that movie tries too hard to be really colorful. Same thing with movies like Traffic and Belly, where the color palette's like part of the art of the story, which I like that sometimes, but that's not what I'm talking about here. Every shot in the movie just is well lit. The way he frames them, like the way he cuts away, like, you know, the scene where where Tim Roth's looking at the three cops with the canines, and he's like, you know, they were staring at me, I didn't know what to do, and that with that fake story that never happened, but they still have a flashback for it.
Yeah, he had to tell that story to get the Jokerbot's trust.
That's right. Yeah, and they all planned it out, and like all that stuff just looks and sounds good. For a guy, because the reason why I'm making it a big deal is because a lot of filmmakers have like problems with production in their first movie. Obviously, with Star Wars, that's been well documented. Tanisha, The Rain, Clerks. If you've ever seen I know you have, but for those out there, the original cut of Clerks, not the theatrical, the original extended cut where Dante dies at the end, there's audio problems. It cuts out. Like, there's all kinds of really weird low budget shots. Just, it doesn't look that good. But with this movie, it's very polished, and that is kind of shocking because, you know, it was his first movie.
Yeah, and Sally Menke, who would be his editor, she was with him till she died, and he really, really puts her over. That's one of the people that he really kind of always admired. And so, yeah, so like you said, I mean, his construction of shots, we got the infamous trunk shot scene here for the first time.
She also edited Turtles 1990, just saying.
No, yeah, she did. I knew that already, yeah.
I'm letting the people know.
And so, So yeah, all his shots were very well constructed, very classic, like shots and stuff. What about the intro, bro? The intro became a classic shot too, where you have all of them walking.
They're all walking. Yeah, I mean, just the whole idea of
bag.
Guys wearing business suits who are tough is always a cool thing. So
the wacky businesses, bro, with the skinny ties. That's what popped me.
I mean, she is. I think Sally Menke and also Roger Avery are like the unsung heroes of Tarantino's career. Like those are the ones that were really, really with that guy.
And Lawrence Bender too.
Yeah, and actually, I would even throw Harvey Keitel on there because I think that he said that Keitel got him some kind of like sweet deal or something for movies after Reservoir. Like he got close with him, but I forget exactly what he did.
Yeah, which is interesting because he hasn't really worked with him much afterwards. But
maybe he's got to come back in Star Trek, bro.
Maybe the schedule's kind of not working. So that kind of set him up for the next film, which is Pulp Fiction, the greatest film ever made in my eyes. The
greatest movie ever made. Now we have a multi-part series planned to discuss Pulp Fiction because this year is the 25th anniversary. So I don't want to go too in depth on this film, but one thing I do want to talk about is the influence that this movie had. And it wasn't just with the non-linear aspect of it. It's also like everything. It's a very stylistic movie, but it doesn't try to be stylistic to where it becomes art. It's like an art house movie with the way he shoots it, the music, all that stuff. But it's not pretentious. You know what I'm saying? He how does Steve Austin say it? You know, he's walking that razor's edge.
Yeah,
but it doesn't go all the way. He somehow balanced an entertaining crime comedy with an art house looking, well manufactured, like Academy Award winning. It's a one of a kind film. I mean, there's only a handful of movies that are this good. Let's be real about it.
And they all came after this one because, again, like I said before, when this one hit big, it inspired an entire genre. I counted like 20 movies once upon a time, and another show that doesn't exist anymore that I never did. And I went through all the movies like the Big Hit, 2 Days in the Valley. After Pulp Fiction came out, everybody was trying to do their own Pulp Fiction, and because they didn't have the charm of Tarantino or the charm of his cast, none of them really kind of hit it. None of them. But for a while in the mid '90s, you had that fucking self-aware, dialogue.
And what's great about the movie is this is like a really subconscious thing. The movie's based on the Pulp Fiction magazines, the Pulp magazines, and the film feels like a magazine. Like, it feels like a pulp. Like, I don't know how he's able to do this. This is very hard to do, but it has that magazine kind of scruffy feeling to it. And it's just, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's a hard thing to capture. It's like a comic book movie, but not really.
Yeah, and that's, to me, that's
Weird.
very clever. To me, that's very clever that he put that up front because right off the hop, he's telling us don't take this shit too seriously. All right, that's pretty much what he's doing when he puts that font up at the beginning of the film and defines what Pulp Fiction is, and then it introduced us to that. Talk a little bit about the soundtrack, because Miserello became the theme for Pulp Fiction, and in a lot of ways the theme for Tarantino films.
Well, same thing with Jungle Boogie. They're all great songs, bro. There's flowers on the wall. Like I like that.
I love that. I love that shit, bro.
It's a great soundtrack. But it's also the way he puts it in the movie, you know.
And to me, the themes in this film is redemption, right? Because you have all these characters, everything from Butch Coolidge to like Jules Winfield. They all want to escape their past. They all want to start over again. And you have things that are like life is throwing all these obstacles in their way, and it does give you the opportunity to start over again. And then you have people like Vince who's kind of stuck in their ways, and they end up getting killed over that. So there are themes overriding.
No,
this
I mean
film.
the themes, I think, and again, we got to save a lot of this for the Pulp Fiction show, but it covers what a lot of writers call. I'm gonna throw some knowledge at you right now.
Go for it.
They have what's called the non-believer and the skeptic and the believer, the true believer. And this is kind of what they do with Star Wars. You have Han Solo, who's the skeptic, Obi-Wan, the true believer. A lot of films do this. This is a trope that's gone all the way back to even the original stories, like even the Odyssey. You've got Odysseus, who is both a true believer and a skeptic because he doesn't think Poseidon can do anything to him. So in this film, you've got the two main characters. Well, there's more than two, but for two segments, John Travolta, Sam Jackson, who, by the way, John Travolta's career was dead. This revitalized his career.
Oh man, oh my God, let's not even talk. Yes.
And this brought him back. And Sam Jackson was just on the way up. I mean, he had done Belly, and he was in the first two arcs of Ghost Rider on PBS, and Jurassic Park was right before this, I think. So, but anyways, so Jules is, he has a near-death experience that changes him, and he truly believes that it was divine intervention. Meanwhile, Vincent Vega thinks that it's a coincidence. He's a bad shoot, but he's still kind of not sure. And he thinks that God was telling him, you need to move on with your life. One took the advice, one didn't, and their fates turned out to be very different. These guys were partners for a long time, and their fates wound up being different because Vincent is the true believer, and I'm sorry, Jules the true believer, Vincent was the skeptic. And that's kind of like their roles here, and Tarantino took that trope and somehow put it into a crime movie to where you actually feel bad when Vincent Vega dies, even though he's a scumbag in the movie. I'm not your friend, Palooka. He's a dick. You feel bad when,
Did I tell you that, I just barely found out that Butch was the one that keyed his car? I didn't know that until later on. I
talked about that. Yeah.
And it's interesting because he was being a dick to him, and he had been a dick to him. But yeah, Vincent
would have loved to have been there just to see him do it, man. You don't fuck with a man's vehicle.
But Vincent is and the thing about this film that's so cool is that Quentin shows you Vince's downfall. He shows you that he's living a life of sin. He shows you that Vincent Vega, there's very little redeeming qualities, but there is some, because there is a lot of things that he does, like he saves Mia Wallace's life.
Yeah, but hold on, he's
also saving his own ass. You're right.
That's right. We're already doing the Pulp Fiction show. We gotta save this for that show. But I was gonna say he didn't save her life because he gave a fuck about her.
You're right about that.
But
bro.
I do love the scene though where he's like, where he's in the bathroom and he's like, "You must resist temptation," because he was tempted to get her high and fuck her, and then he's like, "Just go home, jack off. You'll be fine," which is what he was gonna do.
but again, it wasn't because he was being a gentleman. It was because if he fucked her, Marcellus was gonna kill him.
Rocky Horror. I mean, they established that in the first major scene of the film, and I like how people always put over the Royale with cheese scene. That's not even the best dialogue in the movie. That's a great piece of dialogue, but there's so much better stuff in the movie, like the dinner scene with him and Mia Wallace, the $5 milkshake. See, John Travolta has so much charisma, bro. It's so much.
He's awesome. He got the Academy Award for this picture. He's fucking awesome.
God damn, that's a fucking good milkshake. I don't know if it was $5, but it's pretty fucking good, which I've said I have used that line in my real life. I don't know how many times, bro. And I like how he's like, it's $5. That's milk and ice cream. Like he can't fathom that you're paying $5
for a fucking milkshake.
And you know he's got money because he's a criminal, and those guys are always loaded.
Brother, Sam Jackson, the alpha, had $1,500 in his wallet as walk around money. That's alpha as fuck right there, bro. And
he couldn't put it in the bank though. I mean, this is like drug money.
He could have put $1,500 in the bank. He didn't need to have it in his fucking walking around.
You're right, but it would have been suspicious either way. But you know,
So they both of these characters get presented with choices, right? And Vince never changes, bro. He was still gonna go and kill Butch, and then when Jules when he goes and he kills Pumpkin. I mean, yeah, he had the option to kill him, bro. He had the option to take him up because we had already seen that Jules don't give a fuck about killing people. He had already done it. So, but you know what? He was a changed man because, like what you said, that miracle that happened right before he went to the diner and had the one-on-one with Pumpkin, that changed him forever, and he allowed Pumpkin to live.
And that happens all the time in real life. People go through these weird religious miracles, and then they become Christian or Muslim or whatever. That happens all the time in real life. It's a great story. It really is.
And I love how, and again, we're talking about Tarantino's subtleties here. There's a lot of subtleties here too. Actually, most of the movie is very subtle.
Because Marcellus is supposed to represent the devil in many ways.
Yeah, but also, Jules makes Pumpkin think that he has the leverage to calm him down. I love that shit because Jules is never scared. He never feels like he's in trouble because he's a fucking hitman. He could take this guy out fast, but he allows fucking Tim Roth to feel like he's in control. And then fucking Amanda Plummer also comes in, and she actually shows vulnerability. She's actually scared. So all these things are just fucking great, bro. They're just fucking great storytelling.
It reminds me of when 50 Cent in an interview said, you know, when I got shot 9 times, I became even worse because I realized, because now I really don't give a fuck because now I realize that I'm not in control. So that's the same thing. It was the same thing that happened to him. Same exact thing except happened to him in real life. He gets shot and he realizes that I'm not in control of my own life anymore. God is in control. So when it came to Jules's character, when he survived the miracle blast from the damn hand cannon that Jerry Seinfeld shot him with, right? He's like, you know, if this bitch is going to shoot me now, I'm dead. I have nothing to fear anymore. But if she's not, or maybe the bullets will miss me, because he already survived it earlier in the movie. So if you have a near-death experience, that's why people who have these things in real life become sometimes better parents or better friends and things like that. Like, it's the same thing. Like, he's like, I don't care anymore because if I die, I die. God is in control of my life. Very powerful message, bro. And Tarantino doesn't really bring up religion like that in his movies.
No, he doesn't. But I think there's a lot of personal motivation for Tarantino, and you will see that through all his films, especially in Kill Bill, which is very personal to him. But anyways, going back to this film, let's before we get going, we're not gonna get too much into it, but let's talk a little bit about Butch's storyline, because that's another storyline that has a lot of redemptive quality to it.
It does. And guilt. He's the guilt and yeah, I love how it starts with the scene of him as a kid and the gold. I like how they established the gold watch in the very first scene with Captain Coons, bro. Which you know.
yes, I know what that means, bro. Yeah, I know Tarantino's writing, and I know that he was laughing at that inside joke.
Be damned if the goose get the greasy yellow hands on your birthright. So he knew if the goose.
Go ahead.
No, I was just doing the scene where he's like, he knows if the goose got a hold of this, they take it away or whatever. You know, but I love how they established the importance of the watch, and then later on in the movie, Butch is like, "Do you want my dad to go through for that watch?" And then you see him look down and think about it, and he looks up. This is Bruce Willis being a great actor. And he goes, he had to go through a lot, okay? Like, but you already know what he went through because they explained it at the beginning of that act. And they don't even bring up the watch. Like, they have the whole thing where he killed the guy and Villa Lobos and all that shit. But they don't actually tell you anything about the watch until, you know, she loses it. You know, and it's funny. I just want to say this. Remember when you used to criticize that scene with her, with a Butch and his chick, and I was the one who was like, no, that's a great scene. I explained to you why it was a great scene, and you changed your mind about it, because it's like, no, that scene is setting up him blowing up. He's like, stupid bitch. Stupid bitch, I told her, buy the kangaroo. I love Bruce Willis in that movie, bro.
Well, we're talking about subtlety. I just thought she was an annoying bitch, but we were being set up for that. Like it was a big bubble just waiting to burst, and we ourselves, as the viewing audience, were gonna burst with Butch.
Yeah, because she's stupid. This is very important. They're after him. They're gonna kill him, and she left behind the fucking watch. Because we've all been in that situation before. When we tell a person, sometimes a woman, sometimes you tell them, look, you need to dude, you know how many times I've been in this situation, bro? You need to make sure you remember this. And they don't remember. It's like, did I have to unscrew your head and stab you with a screwdriver to remember, bro? You know what I'm saying? Like Jesus, it's very relatable, even though this guy just killed a man a few scenes earlier. And again, we never saw the scene where Butch killed him. We heard it on the radio. Very similar to The Heist. Tarantino uses a filmmaking technique. You can just imagine this guy dying in the ring. You hear the audio of it, but you never see it.
Right. And so then they have that great scene with Quentin Tarantino, with Jimmy Dimmick, bro. With Jimmy Dimmick. Now, I feel this is great casting by Tarantino.
The man who's already redeemed himself, but he's still an asshole.
But I also know guys like Jimmy Dimmick where they kiss ass to their wife, but behind her back they talk shit about her. And
they talk shit about her though. He said he didn't want to get divorced, which I can relate. I agree with him.
But he's also very passively aggressive, kind of, because when he's like, when Bonnie goes shopping, she buys shit. I buy the good stuff.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I buy the good fucking taste. I want to taste it.
And so here, I love this scene because it also shows that these hitmen, all of them, because Jimmy Dimmick used to be in the life, they all have a regular life. And
I think it was done. I think it was done to show the audience and illustrate the kind of life that Jules could have if he quit the life. But that's not the life he wanted. He wanted to be like Kane in Kung Fu and travel the world. But I'm saying it just shows that there is a life after crime.
You hit it right on the head. That's a great catch.
I've seen this movie. This is legit my favorite movie, dog. You're not gonna. I'm gonna go blow for blow with you on this one, bro. It's gonna be like. It's not gonna be like Cain Velasquez and anybody, bro. Who's doing lucha now, bro? He doesn't even speak Spanish. I'm sorry.
Hello?
Yeah, no, I'm listening, but I just shut up. Keep going.
No. I was gonna say, you still can't answer me why the wolf was at a party at 8:00 in the morning, bro.
Yeah, and then he showed up at the house in 8 minutes?
He says, I'll be there in 10. It says 9 minutes, 36 seconds later.
That's right.
And then he's
you are a character does not mean you have character.
That's one of the best lines ever, bro. Ever, right there.
It's true, though.
It's very representative of a lot of people would know in their real lives, right there.
Oh, yeah, of course.
I have character. Remember the chick? She's getting in the car?
Yeah.
So and then when he tells Jules, if something happens to my car, they're gonna be disposing of 2 bodies.
By the way, I have a quote from Tarantino I want to say. I know I love that line. We should have talked about this earlier, but I have a quote from him. He said, and I quote, "Movies are my religion and God is my patron. I'm lucky enough to be in the position where I don't make movies to pay for my pool. When I make a movie, I want it to be everything to me, like I would die for it." That's kind of what we're talking about right here, right? That summarized everything that we talked about earlier in this.
Definitely.
But yeah, he was supposed to have 2 bodies. Yeah, he's such a fast talker. Like the wolf is like the coolest character in the movie.
I love that fucking character, bro. Like I would love to see. Yeah, like but we also know as writers and storytellers that Winston Wolfe is perfect as a side character because we don't want to overexpose him. You know what I'm saying? He's like the Han Solo of the like certain characters. They could only be side characters or else they lose their luster. And the wolf is one of them, bro. He's just so fucking suave.
That's all you had to say.
What about how Jules marks out for him when he leaves, bro?
Yeah, he marks out.
Did you see that? He didn't even get mad at you or nothing.
He's working with you, Winston, or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
You know, the self-preservation / LaRue, can you stop your Spurs from jingling and jangling?
He's just such a fast talker, like you said.
Those lines. But I love how earlier in the film, I just want to say, Uma Thurman's character, Mia Wallace, is like, why do we feel it's necessary to yak about bullshit to be comfortable? And then Vince is like, that's a good question. She's like, that's when you know you found somebody special, when you can just shut the fuck up for a minute and comfortably enjoy the silence.
She's right.
Not only is she right, One thing I picked up on in one of my recent viewings of this film is her saying that to him, because I've been in this position before so many fucking times. This is the best movie ever made, bro. I'll fight anybody with this, bro. I like Citizen Kane. I like Shawshank, my second favorite. This is the best movie. What's really going on here is the fact that she said that's when you know you found somebody special. When a woman says that to you at dinner, what you're thinking is she wants to fuck. Because a woman wouldn't say I found somebody special when she's fucking married. So even she was kind of flirting with him. And that's when he was like thinking, no, should I fuck her? So I never picked up on that the first few times I saw the movie. It was a recent thing. Like, it wasn't that he was assuming she wanted to fuck him. She was kind of somewhat flirting with him, but like not really. And she even told him that the Tony Rocky Horror thing had nothing to do with the sex thing. So she was kind of like opening the door for him in a way.
That's right. You know, you're right about that. And also, another little subtle aspect of...
He didn't know what he was writing when he made this shit, bro. Like, because
well, it's awesome, bro.
Kind of shit.
Another little subtlety about Vincent's character is the fact that he's such a coward that he has to get high, and he has to... Huh?
I was doing the fart. Don't fucking die on me, Mia.
No, but I mean the fact that he's so scared that he has to get high in order to go on a date with her because he's got to numb his own feelings, right? So it's just another layer of how much of a coward Vincent Vega is at the end of the day. And again, we talked about it like,
bro,
as the enabler.
I'm sorry, I thought it was funny.
How about how Eric Stoltz the carny, bro? He tells them, I'm going to give you one out of my own personal stash. That's like Carney 101, bro. You're telling somebody, you're so special. Even though we all know he probably tells that to every buyer. You're so special. I'm going to give you some of my own stash this time.
And
like
then, from Inglewood.
Yeah. Yeah, because fucking Vincent wanted to fucking bargain with him, bro. And fucking Stoltz is like, nope. Fucking Lance is like, nope, you gotta pay me what everybody pays me.
What about that one line where he's like, hey, my name is Paul, and that shit's between y'all? It's one line in the movie from that guy.
Paul Calderon, bro, the original Jules.
Yeah, that's crazy.
That's one of Quentin's longtime friends right there. But yeah, dude, I mean, so like I said, so many great things. We'll talk about a little bit more about this one in its own show, but just the subtleties. This is a great film.
It's the best movie ever made. All right, another film again. You can't top Pulp Fiction. This was a step down.
It took 4 years. 3 years.
3 years, yeah. 1997, yeah. Jackie Brown, he finally got to do a movie with Robert De Niro, Michael Keaton, Bridget Fonda, who was hot at the time, and fucking Pam Grier. What were we going to say?
And Robert Forster, who's one of the classic actors from the 70s and the 80s.
From the Delta Force, one of my favorite movies, bro.
Great B-movie character actor, and he gave him a starring role. I like this film because it's essentially a love story, but it's not sappy. It really, and again, Tarantino's so fucking great because he himself was not that old yet, but he wrote a love story with two middle-aged people, which is not going to be your typical lovey-dovey love story like you would see in a rom-com. This was an actual
we relate to it more as adults now than we did back in the day.
Right, because Max Cherry's character, he and Jackie Brown fall in love, but it's more out of like, you know how like when you get older, bro, like, and I've gone through this as I get older, you start thinking about having a relationship with somebody more out of necessity because of like, you know, being taken care of, and you do want that romanticism aspect of it, but it's not that traditional, you know, young love kind of way anymore. You know, it's more of just two people living together. Yes, exactly. There you go. And so that's what this movie is about, and you know.
I mean, it's a blaxploitation, tribute.
That's right.
Which we've marked out over those movies.
Tiny Lister gets a payday in this movie.
Yeah, well, he always finds a way in somehow, bro. You know, yeah, Ice Cube. You know, Vince like Ice Cube. They both pay well, or whatever the fuck. and you know, Pam Grier is a blaxploitation icon. Yes, so why not have her cast her? And she was hot in this movie. Why not cast her as the main character? And also, this movie does the Rashomon thing even better than Reservoir Dogs. They actually have the three different perspectives.
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Because they have Ray Nicolette, who's Michael Keaton, the Alpha. He's a cop going after Ordell Robbie, which is Sam Jackson, who's the main villain. Does a great job of being a fucking scumbag in this movie. Mm-hmm. And Sam Jackson,
Robbie, bro.
Sam Jackson ends up befriending Louis Gara, who's the great Bobby D. And Bobby D's he just came out of prison.
That scene with them in the van is
awesome. That's
I love that scene.
That's like their version of the Royale with cheese scene, but in this movie.
I love, and it's kind of love is the wrong word because it's very brutal and very dark. But when he kills Luis Guerra, like
it was shocking the first time I saw it.
But it lingers. It lingers. Like you see, this is kind of fucking creepy because you see Luis Guerra's like his last breath, bro. And then fucking Sam Jackson just looking at him and he's pissed because they fucked up the robbery at the mall, or the exchange, not the robbery, the exchange.
Yeah.
And so it just shows you how fucking heartless Ordell Robbie is. And to me, the Ordell
and by the way, real quick, don't forget the Alpha Sid Haig is in this movie, who was in all of Pam Grier's 70s movies. That was a cool little thing that Tarantino did to pop himself and people like us.
Yeah, and then Rob Zombie kind of recruited him as one of his guys later on.
Sucker's in this movie, bro.
Yeah, he gets killed by Ordell Robbie.
He was red hot in '97. This was like when he was really putting out, good shit. But
one of the best scenes in this film is when Ordell tells his name is Bowman Livingston, bro.
Bowman Livingston. Yeah.
He tells Bowman, why don't you hide in the back trunk, and then we're gonna roll up to this guy's house, and then we're gonna surprise him. You get up, and because what happened is that Ordell paid the bail bond for Beaumont, and then Beaumont fucked it up and cost Ordell money. So Ordell's gonna take him out for that reason, because he's gonna have to kill him, or else he could get his money back, because he could say that's why he didn't show up or whatever. So he tells him, go in behind the trunk, and then when we both come out, we'll kill this guy. And then they have a lingering shot of the car leaving the apartment complex, and it just stays like a big crane shot. It goes around the block to a dark area, and then fucking Ordell gets out of the car. He opens the trunk, and then you hear Chris Tucker, man, nigga, this motherfucker, and then boom, boom, he just kills them, bro, right there on the spot. And then he just closes the trunks and takes off. That's a great scene too.
Yeah.
But
I like, this is like his most like traditional movie, because it feels like a traditional movie, like just a movie, like a crime movie, as opposed to it being like really twisty like his last two,
But again, that last scene where the exchange, where Jackie Brown is gonna betray Ordell, that's a very tense scene in the mall, where you, like you say, you have
the mall is my favorite scene. Yeah.
You have the three perspectives. You have Jackie Brown's perspective, you have Ray's perspective, and then you have Mac Cherry's perspective, and so it's very tense because you don't know if Jackie Brown's gonna get away with it. And then at the end, they do the way it ends though. They do it's kind of lame though, when they kind of kill Ordell like in the dark and shit. But that's kind of how they ended the movie, and then Jackie Brown ends up with Max Cherry. So it's kind of a happy ending. Yeah,
this is based on Rum Punch. It's the only film he's ever actually based off of a novel. I guess he really likes that novel. Well, I remember hearing that Roger Avery and Quentin Tarantino got the rights to like a bunch of movies from Elmore Leonard. So
yeah,
and they never. Oh, I'm sorry, the novels, but we haven't seen Freaky Deaky or Kill Shot as movies yet. But Rum Punch did become Jackie Brown.
Yes, and it's interesting how he decided after the big hoopla with Pulp Fiction, he decided as an adaptation. And actually, what happens at the end is that it's very much reminiscent of Casablanca, because they actually both go their separate ways. They don't stay together, but you get the impression that later on down the road they're gonna meet up and live happily ever after. At least that's what you hope for anyway. But I love this film, bro. I mean, it's another one that's like you were saying. I think you said this off air. It's underrated, and it's like one of the films that not a lot of people see. But it's a very
forgotten about.
Yeah. So let's move over.
Well, wait. Natural Born Killers. He wrote the story. We didn't talk about True Romance. He didn't direct.
Let me say an addendum on Natural Born Killers. People want to see Robert Downey Jr. being wacky. Watch Natural Born Killers, bro. He's fucking awesome in that movie.
He's not the wackiest person in that movie, though.
You're right about that, though.
She's not gonna see my face for an hour. That's the wackiest kind of movie, bro.
I was in Grenada, brother. What about when Mickey and Mallory? What about when Mickey and Mallory are about to execute him, and he starts doing like meditating and doing like a humming voice, oh, and they just fucking blast his ass.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that film. Now, True Romance. Tony Scott directed it. Tarantino wrote it. Fantastic movie. Tony Scott can adapt Tarantino scripts really well.
Very Tarantino-esque film, to the point where a lot of people still think that he had a lot to do with it. And he's actually in the commentary for that film. So
to mention that when they were selling the what was it, the 8 Blu-ray collection a few years ago, that was included, even though he didn't direct it.
Yeah, because it's very Tarantino. It's got our boy Drexel Spivey.
That's one of our favorites, bro. Is it white boy day? No, I'm
Day?
pretty, but I'm not prettier than a pair of titties.
It's got a Spike Lee boy, a Michael Rappaport in there.
And don't forget, it's got Val Kilmer. It's got
Brad Pitt.
walking his back in the most iconic scene in the whole movie. You part eggplant, with Hopper. It's
What a great
movie.
film, bro! What a great fucking movie.
We might save that for a different show. Now, Four Rooms.
Don't forget, it's got your boy Bronson Pitchcott in it too.
That's right, bro. From Mr. Craig Toomey. So.
It has Sam Jackson as well. Anyways,
I don't like Four Rooms. Tarantino's segment was probably the best one. Him and Bobby Rodriguez's, but I'm not.
Bobby Rodriguez was the annoying kids, right? That was the annoying kids.
Yeah, the misbehaviors.
I don't like that movie either.
I'm not a fan of that movie. I saw it once and I was never interested in seeing it again. Even though his Tarantino segment is okay, it's still not that interesting. I mean, hell, Bruce Willis is there in a cameo.
Yeah. So
So then we have Kill Bill.
No, let me talk about Tarantino's segment real fast. Just really, because it's a fucking one punchline and it fucking sucks. So the whole idea is that Tarantino, and I've only seen it once, so I'll probably get it wrong, but I'll try to remember. There's this idea where they're gonna do a game where they're gonna give Tim Roth money if they turn on a Sipple, and then if it doesn't turn on after 10 times, he could chop the guy's finger off. Well, what happens is that the Sipple flickers the first time, he chops the finger off, and then he takes off with the money, and that's the punchline. Like, they build up this entire fucking Sipple game, and the first time it fucks up, he chops the finger off, and then he just takes off the money.
I kind of like that, though, because that makes sense. I kind of like that.
But you're waiting for this big game, bro, like this big fucking game you're about to see, and then the fucking Sipple flick, it doesn't turn on, and he just takes off after the first try. All right, anyways, Kill Bill, one of my favorites, bro.
Yeah, this is the movie. I did not like this film when I first saw it. I thought it was trying way too hard. When I saw 1 and 2 made 1 a better movie, which is why I want The Whole Bloody Affair, and that's what it's called, The Whole Bloody Affair, because Kill Bill 2 makes Kill Bill 1 better. I actually like Kill Bill 2 more than Kill Bill 1. I know a lot of folks don't, but I like Kill Bill 2 more. We'll talk about them both here. Vivica A. Fox, Lucy Liu, kind of a more modern cast. Michael Madsen's back, and of course Uma Thurman's the main character, the bride.
Yeah, the Assassination Viper Squad. That was the team of the group of hitmen, including the bride, when they were all working together.
The Deadly Viper Assassination Squad.
The Deadly Viper Assassination Squad. That's what did that stand for anyway? Deadly Viper. It didn't stand for anything, huh?
No, that was what it stood for, yeah. But I love how you've got Julie Dreyfus, you've got Sonny Chiba, one of my favorites, bro.
Yeah.
Alpha, go back and watch the Street Fighter.
Hittori Hanzo.
And you've got Hittori Hanzo. You've got who's the main eventing Tokyo Dome, Wrestle Kingdom someday. And you've got Sam Jackson playing he's not playing Jules from Pulp Fiction, but what Jules could have become.
Although the fanboys have combined them. I don't know if you've heard that story.
I have, and I'm saying that's why I'm debunking it right here, because that's not what happened. He's great. And don't forget, David Carradine as Bill, bro, came from Kung Fu. Like, I love that. If you're a fan of Pulp Fiction, you're seeing some payoffs here.
So when I first saw these two films, I saw them back to back. The first one opened up in October 2003. The next one, I think it was February 2004.
Not really back to back.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was a few months apart. Yeah. I've always liked the first one better because it's all action, right? And then the second one. So Tarantino has said the first one's an old kung fu movie, and then the second one's a spaghetti western, where it's very slow and very methodical.
But I like it.
And I liked it too. I've grown to really, really appreciate the subtleties of the second one, especially the ending when we finally have the bride meet up with Bill, because you get this big buildup of their final fight, and we're going back to real life. At the end of the day, when they finally meet up, they have a conversation like a couple, and it's very tragic. It's very tragic because Bill's rationale for doing what he did is all based on jealousy, and it's all based on not having control. Because here's Bill, who's this big like hitman, and he controls his squad, but he always controlled everything, but he couldn't control her, and he couldn't take it. So when she left him, And she went with this what was it, like a radio DJ or whatever. He plays the guy that she marries is a Jane Marsden of Kill Bill, bro. He's the guy that you know, the fucking the Notebook guy, the guy. She didn't really love him. It was just her way out of the life. That's pretty much what it came down to.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you know, to add to that, I don't know. I mean, I remember when the thing about this movie is it's the most video game-ish Tarantino movie ever, because it feels like a video game. Like, it literally feels like a video game. My friends and I saw these movies when they first came out, and the Crazy 88 fight is like a boss fight, and then like it's building up to the final confrontation with, you know, with Bill, the snake charmer or whatever, right? And it's great because it does have great buildup, and you could almost in some ways watch just part 2 really and not even see part 1 and kind of get what's going on. You don't have to see every detail, but I feel like it does. You can tell this is one of those he was influenced by Bruce Lee type things, because in the first film she's wearing the yellow, which is exactly what Bruce Lee wore in the pagoda in Game of Death. Yeah. Which Toriyama totally jacked it for the Red Ribbon Army arc, the Muscle Tower, and we've seen the pagoda over and over again. Kung Fu on Nintendo is the pagoda, and again, she's working her way up to the final boss, and I always liked that about that movie.
What I like about Volume 1, we talk about the third man,
and it is a grindhouse movie, you know.
Of course, yeah. But what I liked about the Volume 1, we talked a little bit about the third man gimmick, where we don't see Bill, but he's all over the fucking movie. Volume 1 doesn't have David. We only hear his voice, and we only see him in shadows.
That's right.
And I love that first scene where he tells her before he executes her, like, you think this is me at my most sadistic? This is me at my most what was the other one? Masochistic. Right.
Oh, you're okay.
In other words, he's telling her what he's about to do hurts him more than it is gonna hurt her. That's what he's telling. And then how he's wiping her tears. That's pretty fucking awesome, dude. I love that shit. Yeah. And then also, dude, Michael Madsen does an incredible performance here as Bud, because nobody else carries the guilt of what they did like Bud, because Bud ends up he isolates himself from the group after they did what they did. And he's one of the guys that at the end, he's like, she does deserve her revenge and we're all going to die, right? And for whatever reason, and we never found out why, Bud and Bill, who are brothers, they haven't talked for a long time. And that's something that they don't explain to you in the film, which again is pretty cool because it tells you that something happened there. And Bud is kind of living a life of, in a lot of ways, a life of poverty. He's got a shitty fucking job where he has to fucking scrub toilets and shit. And he doesn't have to do that because you know he has money, but it's that guilt that he's carrying. And just the great Michael Madsen's performance is so great because you feel his burden, and maybe because he fucking looks like shit in real life, bro. But you actually like the way he walks. Yeah. He's so tired, you know. And so
well, he was great, and we're gonna talk about later Hateful Eight. But no, I agree.
But that just, again, going back to subtleties, which is Tarantino's really good at, just a great performance by Michael Madsen. Probably the best performance of all of them. Now,
and again, these movies did have to grow on me, but they do get better upon subsequent viewings. I will say that.
Sonny Chiba, who's the one. Now he also has a little guilt because he also helped out Bill when he was a kid, and she comes back and they have a great comedic scene when Hattori Hanzo doesn't want to see anybody, and Hattori Hanzo's right there with his stooge next to him. They're cooking sushi or whatever.
Hiroshi Hase.
and so she convinces him to build her a sword. And then he has that great scene at the end when he finally does, you know, because she proves herself to him, and he's like, what does he say? It's like, I say this without no, like, in other words, he says, this is the best sword I've ever built, and he's prideful in his work. This is like some of the things that me and you were talking about off air, about some of the things you had said earlier.
Why I'm the best Dragon Ball YouTuber ever.
But the thing was that he was so proud of that sword, and that comes off, you know, he gives it to her, and he knows that Hattori Hanzo's sword is going to be filled with blood of revenge as she goes off and kills everybody that did her wrong. And that's a great fucking scene, bro. I love that scene. You know, you had Michael Parks as Earl McCraw's in all his movies as the ranger who fucking... Michael Parks has two roles. He plays Earl McCraw, and then later on he plays that pimp in Mexico.
The guy who's playing Blade now. See, they can do it.
What are you talking about?
from the MCU.
Oh yeah, because that's two characters.
Yes,
Well,
two characters.
as a sidebar here, before the MCU fucking connected all this universe shit, Tarantino has been doing that for years. Because Mr. White talked about Alabama from True Romance, and then you had Apple.
The Vegas brothers. The Vegas
So
brothers.
you have the Vega brothers, and then you also have the Red Apple cigarettes, which come out in all his films. So there's a connective tissue.
And Kevin Smith did it too.
And Kevin Smith did it as well. And we have Earl McCraw, who's the sheriff in all the movies.
The only difference is that with the MCU, it has different directors. Well, except for the Tony Scott example. You know what I mean? But this is all Tarantino. So
and
Kevin Smith.
And this is probably one of his best soundtracks ever, bro. Because every
Oh, I love this soundtrack.
Yeah, now what's weird about this film? Now, why do you think that Oren got a lot of fucking story and everybody else got shit, bro?
I don't know. I think he liked the character more. I was gonna say that Paul London came out to that song on the Indies.
They did. I remember that.
Yeah.
Because Vernita Green didn't get no backstory, and Bud kind of, but not really. And then Ellie Driver didn't get any story either. Daryl Hannah. Oren got a whole pretty much all of Volume 1 is about Oren, who became like a badass, fucking Yaska member, the leader of the Yaska. What do you think of the anime scene? Because that's a very divisive.
I like it a lot because I know what he was going for. My friends ate it up. That movie came out when the anime boom was still hot. So I mean, if you're running that era, bro, there you go.
And the thing is, the subtlety there is that was a young Bill, but it's never said. You just connect the dots. That was a young Bill that killed Oren's family, and she ends up working for him later on, which is kind of ironic. So no, I mean, I love the House of Blues leaf scene with little Charlie Brown, the waiter that they keep on punking and shit. Mm-hmm. The fucking ending, the Oren main event fucking fight is awesome. The cinematography there is awesome. The Japanese snow, all this, and I know he took that from a lot of Japanese films. The entire Oren battle had a lot of fucking Easter eggs on a lot of other films going on there. Just great stuff, dude. I fucking love this movie, man. And Volume 2 is even better now. It's really, I really put it over Volume 1 because Volume 1 is just like a big spot fest.
Well, you said that you like one more, but now you're saying you like two more, right?
Yeah. I definitely, I used to like.
But you have to watch them as a whole. Like that's the way it was intended to be released.
Right, and then they have the gimmick that always gets over in wrestling and in movies. The silent fucking deadly bodyguard with Jojo Gabari, bro, the Asian chick from Battle Royale. Yeah. Because Battle Royale is one of Tarantino's favorite movies ever. So he got her, and she's got that badass fucking chain with the ball on top of it. It's pretty cool. And then the bride, I love her tenacity, bro, because the bride is like they did me wrong. I got raped. I got my loss. She thinks she lost her kid. I'm gonna go out and kill every single motherfucker that did me wrong.
It's a revenge story, bro. It's like Steven Seagal and like the Street Fighter. I mean, it really is. A lot of Tarantino movies are an homage to like previous films. He loves Howard Hawks and Sonny Chiba's in this damn movie. Like this movie is literally, like you said, a spaghetti western mixed with like a Steven Seagal, Chuck Norris revenge movie.
And
I'm gonna kill everybody.
And then when he had to cut him up, Volume 1 has a great fucking cliffhanger, bro, where we all find out together that his daughter lives with Bill. We don't find out that to the last.
Her daughter.
Yes, it's both their daughters. His daughter and her daughter.
Yeah. It's a great twist too.
You hear Bill in the background saying that he's coming for them, and then he pets a little girl, and we end up finding out that that's his daughter, and she's still alive, and then the credits roll, and we're excited for the sequel. So and then the sequel, obviously, like we talked about, it has the Bud scene, it has the Ellie Driver scene. I know a lot of people didn't like the fact that in the end she doesn't kill Bud or Ellie Driver, but I think Ellie Driver dies anyway because there's a snake there and she can't see. She's got both her eyeballs missing, so she's eventually she's either gonna die or she's gonna die of thirst because they're in the middle of the desert.
But the goal was for her to kill Bill. That's the whole freaking thing. As long as she killed Bill, I'm just saying, like, you get a satisfying ending. Now, we got to move on. Death Proof, okay? All right. I don't want to talk about Planet Terror. Just Death Proof.
Oh yeah,
Obviously,
that was a Bob Rodriguez film. What were we talking
yeah,
about Planet
well,
Terror?
it's part of Grindhouse. I mean, like I've said before, Grindhouse was one of my favorite theatrical experiences ever. I had a great time seeing it. I saw it like 2 a.m, I think, with like a rabid Tarantino audience. It was really fun. The trailers and all that. But no, I want to focus just on Death Proof. I like Planet Terror more. I don't hate this movie though. I don't. It's because I think it's because the charisma of Kurt Russell and Rosario
Oh,
Dawson.
he's awesome, man. He's fucking.
And Rosario Dawson and Rose McGowan. But I think the reason why this movie works is because this is the first Tarantino film that actually feels more like a horror flick than any of the other ones, because Kurt Russell is this very charismatic serial killer type guy. He acts like a real life serial killer who murders women with a stunt car, by smashing them or whatever.
And that's why that concept in itself is wacky, bro.
It is.
He goes around killing women in his stunt car.
I can't hate this movie. I've only seen it like 2 times in my life, and I never hated it. I don't think it's that bad. It gets a lot of shit.
Well, there's a couple of reasons for that. First of all, it's very dialogue heavy, and it's very disjointed in a lot of ways, and I'm gonna tell you why. I think that the first cast of women, which is who plays the lead girl, Jungle Julia, Sidney Poitier. She doesn't have the acting chops to carry her dialogue.
Yeah.
And there's that, and the dialogue doesn't move the story. They're just talking about their life over and over.
Sort of like what they tried to do with Pulp Fiction, but they did more here, which is bad. Yeah.
Right, but even
and
with
she doesn't have the charisma like Sam Jackson.
But even with Pulp Fiction, they move the storyline forward with a lot of bits of dialogue,
right.
And they also allow you to get to know the characters more. Like we talked a lot earlier about how like Vincent Vega, not only is he saying cool shit, but you also understand where he's coming from every time he says it. Even with that $5 milkshake, you get to understand that he's very frugal in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
So that's good. When you have dialogue that gets you to know the characters more, that's a good thing. But when you have dialogue that's just meandering and people just talking about their lives, and then their lives are not really that interesting, it gets boring. And that's what we have here. And it's not till they introduce Stuntman Mike, which is it takes a while to get there, that things really get interesting.
Yes.
Because he has a lot of charisma, and you could tell that what I do like about this movie is that Stuntman is actually like you see his car in the background. Like if you watch the movie again and they have the girls talking about girl stuff, he's always there. He's been stalking them the entire film. And then later on they introduce him and he's eating those fucking nachos and then fucking Tarantino did a great job with the sound effects, like the disgusting ass nachos that he just stuffing in his mouth. And then the whole thing becomes about him trying to charm his way into their lives, right? That's what the first half of the movie is about at the bar. That also has Quentin Tarantino as the bartender.
That's right.
Eli Roth trying to get laid with
Eli Roth
girls.
Is in there, yeah. Bear Jew.
And so it just goes on and on. But again, this was Tarantino's tribute to the racing car films of the 60s and the 70s, like Bullet and what was the other one?
All his movies are tributes to other movies. It's funny.
Yeah, but the key to me here, where you really get your money's worth, is at the end with Zoe Bell, because that's her on the car, bro. Tarantino's not gonna do any fucking CGI shit. He's gonna be 35mm to the day he dies.
Right.
So some of those stunts that are taking place right in front of your eyes, that's incredible, and that in itself is a fucking worth the price of admission. Not only that, the kill scene in the middle where he kills the first 4 girls, that's just fucking awesome, bro. Where Stuntman Mike drives all the way and then he fucking goes head on with these bitches, and he turns on every time they have the shot where every time he turns off his lights, you see how he killed all 4 of them, and the one of the girl, the tire goes into the girl's head, and the other one flies out of the fucking seat because she wasn't wearing a seat belt, and then one of them's leg gets cut off. That's some brutal shit right there. And then we get our boy Michael Parks as Earl McCraw again saying, yeah, well, he did it, but by the time we get to him and we prove it, it'll be too late. So they just go. So pretty much they blow off that whole scene by saying that they know he did it, but they can't prove it, so fuck it. Let's just move on. And then he goes on to start the second half of the movie. Is a new set of girls. So essentially the movie starts over again as he tries to stalk the second pair of girls.
Right, but this is where it backfires on him, which I thought was very clever, how the movie starts over again like that.
And I do love how we get the reveal of Stuntman Mike when he's a killer, when he tells Rose McGowan, what was it say? I gotta go this way. Oh, honey, I wish you didn't have to. I have to go this way. What was it say?
I don't remember. I've only seen it 2 times.
Essentially, he's trying to say, if they were going the same way, she wouldn't have got scared so soon. So now, because she wants to go that way, he wants to go this way. That's when he's gonna have to kill her ass. So he starts flooring the car, and every time he slams the brakes, she fucking slams her head. It's nasty, bro. And then that's how he kills her. So that's pretty much that. But the ending also is very divisive because he turns into a big pussy when he gets shot. But I think that was the point.
That's the point. He is a coward. He's a coward.
Yeah,
he's a total coward.
But Kurt Russell sells it so good, bro. Like, he starts crying like a bitch, and he's like,
well, he's always. That's when he became one of his boys. That was the first movie he did with Tarantino. He's come back for like what, 3 or 4?
Not that much, bro. He's only come back. He's only in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood
and Hateful Eight.
And Hateful Eight, so 3.
Yeah, but he's a main character in Hateful Eight. So
yes. So no, this movie is good.
Listen, I remember that was one of Carpenter's guys first.
Tarantino ain't gonna make a bad movie, all right? Because there's always gonna be something to hold on to. But I think this is his least good film. How about that?
My least favorite one's the next one, Inglourious Basterds. We got to get through it because we're almost at the 2-hour mark here, but we're gonna do it the best we can. Okay. So Inglourious Basterds, not my favorite Tarantino movie. I know you told me before that a lot of other people love it. It just didn't connect with me. Christoph Waltz is great.
Okay. Have you given it another shot recently?
I have not seen it since I saw it the first time, which I probably will do some point later this year. I probably will do that. But yeah, I'll tell you why off air. But why I'm not gonna see it yet. But the thing is that it's a good movie. There's things I like about the movie. Okay, like you said, the bar scene, the scene at the beginning where the kids are under the house, the scene where Michael or Christoph Waltz is eating the apple turnover thing.
Yeah, I love that.
I love that scene, and that movie made me hungry, bro. Like, I wanted to get one of those things when I got done. Those things look delicious.
The strudel, right?
Yeah, the strudel. And this is the first actual period piece where now Tarantino's going back and rewriting history, and he literally rewrites it in this movie. But yeah, it was this is like the beginning of the new generation of Tarantino. This was kind of the beginning of it. Yeah, Death Proof was the bridge. Now we got the period piece era. But I mean, an amazing cast. I mean, dude, Mike Myers in this damn movie, bro.
But just great performances, man. I mean,
yeah, Fassbender's great. No, the acting, you'll never hear me talk shit about it. And this movie made Christoph Waltz.
Yes, he's fucking incredible in this movie as the Jew hunter, bro. No, that strudel scene's incredible because remember Shoshana, which is played by the great Melanie Laurent, she gets during that scene in the house, the opening scene, she gets away from Hans. She runs away, and then Hans just points the gun at her, and he's gonna shoot her, and he's looking at her, and then he goes, nah. Then later on, many years later, well, not many, but like 2 years later, when she's sitting right there with him, and he comes out of nowhere, and he introduces, like, fuck, what a great scene. Like, the tension, like, she's scared shitless. This
movie has great tension. Throughout the entire movie, there's great tension.
Do we know that Hans knows who she is, or did he forget? And the way Christoph Waltz plays it, like, he looks at her, then he doesn't, like just an incredible scene, bro. Now Brad Pitt overacts like a motherfucker, but I don't care. He's wacky in this film, bro.
The Apache.
we got to hunt some Nazis. And Brad Pitt he gets tasked with creating the bastards, which are they're kind of like a black ops crew of men that are gonna go over to occupy Germany and kill as many Nazis. Pretty much, yeah. And like we said, though, they recruit Michael Fassbender, who plays Archie Hickox, who's actually a television actor who ended up enlisting in the UK army in order to fight the Nazis. So he ends up having that great scene, and then they got Hugo Stiglitz, who's actually a big Mexican star who did B movies back in the day, but they call the character Hugo Stiglitz, who's played by Til Schweiger. Just a great scene, but that scene alone is worth the price of admission in the bar where they all kill each other. It's got a great ending where everything converges. The only thing that I didn't like about this film is that we never see the bastards together as one, because as the years are going on, they all die. They die as much as the Nazis are dying. So sometimes we see all of them together, and sometimes you have a few of them that are missing, that are already dead. They get killed off screen or whatever.
Right.
But it's just
Sam Jackson's the narrator. Don't forget that.
That's right. He is a narrator. And like I don't know, this really reintroduced Quentin Tarantino, and it brought him back in a big way, because it was a while since Kill Bill. And I know that for a while Tarantino had done some television. He did an episode of ER.
That's right.
You know,
he did an episode of I think it was one of the Law and Order shows. I think.
Yeah, he did one of the Law and Order shows, and then he did acting for a while. So he was busy doing other things. This was his big comeback film right here, and I thought he hit it out of the ballpark. But again, I'm like you. It's not a film that I like the first viewing, but I've seen this movie maybe 5-6 times, and it always grows on me, and I understand what he was trying to do with it.
Django Unchained. Really enjoyed this movie. All right, so this is the movie that Will Smith rejected, because now this is a controversial one, because I've seen some people really dislike this film, not just because of the N-word, but because the fact that it was Christoph Waltz's character, who's amazing in this movie. His name is Dr. King. That's already pissed off some people.
Dr. King Schultz, yeah.
And the fact that he's the one who kills the main villain, not Django. You know what I mean?
That's what pissed off Will Smith.
That pissed off a few different people, actually, because I've seen people have dissected this film and talked about how it proves that Tarantino's a racist. I don't want to get into that on this podcast. That's going to take another half hour. As far as the movie itself goes, this is very similar to Kill Bill. It's like a revenge story, but a little bit different. You know what I mean?
It's also different. A love story, too.
It is. Really, Christoph Waltz carries the movie. Jamie Foxx has charisma, but Christoph Waltz just has more charisma.
It's his film. It's Christoph Waltz's film, bro.
It really is. But then we have Monsieur Calvin J. Candy.
The man that doesn't speak French, but wants to have that French fucking aristocrat things surrounding him, bro. I love that.
And remember, and also they use words like mandingo in this. And and don't forget, Don Johnson is Big Daddy, bro. That's always a nice treat. But you actually told me about this movie before I saw it, and you basically said that. Oh, and Walton Goggins. So you basically said that that Leonardo DiCaprio is an amazing heel in this film, and you told me that because you saw it before I did, and I couldn't picture DiCaprio as a heel really, because it's been so many years. And boy, did he nail it. Calvin Candy, he's such an entertaining villain. He reminds me, he reminds me of, bro? 1980s Tully Blanchard. He really reminds me of that character.
Brother, what about his introduction when he's drinking that pina colada, watching the Mandingos fight, and then he turns around and Tarantino zooms right into his face, and then he just goes, cheers, and he picks up the pina colada. That's his introduction, bro.
And I love how he's obviously a racist. He obviously sees black people as being beneath him and as entertainment for him and slaves, but he never really acts racist until our favorite scene, of course, the grooves in the skull scene. Because he doesn't really use the N-word. Does he even say the N-word?
No, because he's a very dignified Southern gentleman.
That's what I'm saying. So he's like a subtle racist. It's really well done, because you would think that this guy would be spouting the N-word out like crazy. He's also got a house with Sam Jackson, a house Negro, which is great because he's playing a beta. But I love the how smart the movie is.
And that's the thing that Will Smith didn't understand, and even Tarantino said it later on in interviews. Calvin Candy wasn't the real villain. It was Steven, Sam Jackson's character. He was the real villain, because in real life, that did happen a lot, where the house Negro wouldn't allow any other African American people to fucking succeed, because they were in the house, right? So they would always make sure that every other black person was underneath their feet. So he was the real villain of the film, and you see that when you see the final product. But going back to Calvin Candy, there's that great scene where he sicks the dogs out on the slave that tried to escape, and that is the scene that stood with Dr. King when he realized he had to kill Calvin Candy, because he had to sacrifice himself for no other black person to ever go through that again. That's a great fucking scene, and that's really what turned it for him. And so we have Walton Goggins as Billy Crash, one of his stooges. This is a great film, bro, and it has a lot of great scenes. A couple of my favorites are the chemistry between Django Freeman and Dr. King, because they establish such a friendship, and it becomes kind of like a father-son friendship, but it's never overt, right? They never have the scene where they're hugging. It's just Dr. King just taking this guy who was a slave who he freed because
this Jonah Hills also makes a cameo, and this is that scene with the clan was great. I just want to say that.
But to me, that's what makes this movie very endearing, because it's never an overt friendship. It's this thing that happens, and Dr. King becomes a father to him. He dresses him, he feeds him, and then Jamie Foxx did a great job in playing this guy who he knows that Dr. King is his father figure, but he never accepts it, or he never tells them, because he's still a white man until he's dead. They have that one scene where Jack goes back to get the piece of paper, his certificate of freedom, and he just pets him on the shoulder because he's already dead, right? So that to me, that's a very endearing scene right there, because that tells you that Django does appreciate everything that Dr. King did for him, including sacrificing his own life. And really, that's what motivates Django to go back and fucking burn that entire village down that Calvin Candy lived in. Even though Calvin Candy's already dead,
right,
he has to go back and take out Steven and Billy Crash and fucking A-Spec, which is James Remar, another alpha. He's got to take all those motherfuckers out because he's got to do it for Dr. King. And so that's fucking awesome, bro. And of course, Kerry Washington does a great job as Broomhilda, who's actually a descendant of Shaft, because her name is Broomhilda von Shaft. So
that was the joke. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I love this movie. Going back to the tension, the Calvin Candy scene where he knows what they're up to and he gives that speech and he actually fucking bursts his hand open. He got color legit as a shoot when he slams the table. Just all those things. And he's so arrogant, bro. And he's so fucking like, you gotta shake like a gentleman. Like he could have let them go. Everything was done. Like Dr. King paid the price, which was pretty expensive. And everybody they were already leaving. But it was that little arrogance where Calvin's like, nope. We got to shake hands like gentlemen. So he's telling them, I'm still better than you. Even if you got one up on me, I'm still better than you. And that's when fucking Dr. King goes back and remembers the dog incident, and he just fucking kills him right there on the spot, bro. And that's it. And
it came out of nowhere the first time I saw the film. It shocked me. You have to watch the movie. In my opinion, you got to watch it again to get to what you're talking about. You do have to watch it again to get it. Because I didn't get it the first time I saw it.
So another great movie.
But also they were building up to Dr. King killing him. Like they were like, you can kind of tell with Christoph Waltz's acting, like, that he was starting to not like that guy really badly. Well, they never trusted him anyways.
There was a lot of tension. There was a lot of tension.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was just building up and building up and building up. But it was that little speck of arrogance in Calvin Candy that set everything in motion. Had he allowed them to just walk away after they paid for the slave, everything would have been fine. But he fucking had to open his mouth and just ask for that fucking handshake so he could show everybody that he still had the leverage. And that's when fucking Dr. King was like, nope, I'm going to take you out. He shakes his hand. He pops out that little gimmick gun from his other little sleeve right there, and he kills him.
Now, the Hateful Eight.
And the biggest subtlety is that as soon as Dr. King kills or shoots Calvin Candy, you just hear Sam Jackson, no! That's my favorite part of the movie, bro.
I love it, bro. Sam Jackson stole that movie, bro. He plays the opposite of every character he plays in every movie. The exact opposite. He's a coward. He's grovelly. He likes being beneath the white man. And it's just crazy casting that he could pull that off. I mean, we know he could. He's played cowards before, but I mean, not to this degree.
What about the final scene, bro, where, again, it goes back to I just keep on bringing up subtlety because that's great fucking screenwriting. When it's Steven versus Django at the end, right? When Django has already killed Billy Crash and all the other villains, and then Steven because remember, Steven has a cane and he's doing the Yoda gimmick, and then all of a sudden he looks at Django and he says, fuck this, and he throws his cane and he stands upright. This motherfucker was good, bro. He could always, but he plays the part, right?
He was working, bro. He was working.
And that's he's like, fuck you, what are you gonna do? And then he tells them how they're always gonna win, and then that's it. He fucking shoots him in the leg, and then he blows the house up. Anyways, good fucking movie, bro.
Good movie. Now, interesting. Hateful Eight has a 74% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is, again, fuck Rotten Tomatoes. Basically, it's the lowest scored Tarantino film of his whole career. And yet, this is my third favorite Tarantino movie. My order goes Pulp Fiction, Reservoir, and then this one. This is my third favorite film. I've seen it 3 times in my life, and every time I watch it, it gets better and better and better. Yes, there are some parts that are slow. The beginning is very slow. When they get to the cabin, though, we're running. But
the only problem is that the beginning is like 45 minutes.
It did take a while, but when you get to the cabin, it's amazing. All right. I mean, we've already, you and I have marked out over this movie a lot. All right. So you've got Sam Jackson as kind of the main character, but not really. Kurt Russell right next to him. You've got Jennifer Lee, who plays Daisy, who's like the lead.
She does a great job.
Yeah, she's the lead heel, but we don't know that right away. Walton Goggins, who's wacky. I mean, he's great. And then we have the return of Michael Madsen as Joe Gage, Grouch Douglas, Bruce Dern, Laura Dern's dad, Timmy Roth is back, Damian Bashir, Zoe Bell. And I really enjoyed this movie. I like how the movie is non-linear, but it straight up tells you. And by the way, when this movie came out, we should talk about this a little bit. 70mm Roadshow. I went to go see it in the 70mm Roadshow. Didn't you tell me that the guy who worked there didn't know how to change the reel?
Yes, well, that would happen with us. I went to the Roadshow as well, and again, Tarantino doesn't do this fucking. He does nothing but film to this day. So they gotta pop out the film projector.
And this movie was shot in what was it? Was it anamorphic? It was a special kind of aspect ratio, like the super wide.
Yeah, super wide, 75mm film.
Very few movies are shot like that with the super wide.
Yeah. So he.
But it helped. Yeah, and it really captured. Like that.
The exteriors. It helped with the exteriors a lot.
Yeah, a lot. Like you really see it in the scenes. Yeah, in the scenes outside the cabin. That's when it's great. Very beautiful movie. But also the script for this movie leaked, and he threw a fit.
Yeah,
what was the story behind that?
Well, somebody leaked it, and I forgot who it was. It might have been Michael Madsen, but who knows? Because I don't know if you know this, but Michael Madsen and him didn't talk for a long time because Michael Madsen, what happened is that after Reservoir Dogs, he blew up. He started getting, he did Donnie Brasco, and he was doing a lot of other movies. So he was the original Vincent Vega. They weren't brothers yet. They made them brothers when he hired John Travolta. But right. Michael Madsen told him to fuck off because he was making big movies in Hollywood. I mean, yeah, that's what he told him. So Tarantino held resentment over him for a long time. It wasn't until Kill Bill that he came back. And so I think this time he fucked up and he told somebody about it. Because, they give you the script with watermarks. So every time there's a script out there that gets out, they know who to trace it back to in case somebody's being a fucking snitch and giving out the plots. And in this point, it got out. And yeah, Tarantino threw a fit, but he decided to make it anyway. So he's like, I'm not going to make it anymore. But he decided to make it anyway. Thank God for that. And so we have this movie.
Yeah, so there were spoilers of this movie around. I didn't even read them. I thought about it. You and I talked about it. I didn't even read them. But even Channing Tatum was good in this movie.
Because it's not really a twist because there's a lot of films like this and you could put 2 and 2 together. It's not the twist like a Reservoir Dog twist or even like a what was the other one that had a twist that we're talking, like an Inglourious Basterds ending where he completely changes history. This is more like a it's a reveal.
It's a whodunit is what it is. It's a whodunit. It's like Knives Out is gonna be if it's good.
But the thing
it's like Clue, except
yeah,
better. I don't know.
But the thing is,
Sandy Smithers, bro. That's all I'm gonna say.
There's a great scene by Daisy Domergue, or Domergue, or whatever her name is.
Dumbass, bro. Amy Dumbass, bro.
where she's like, well, you know what? What happens is that these are all my friends, and they're gonna come and rescue me. She says that as soon as they walk in, and Tarantino did that on purpose because he was like, if I say that early, people are not gonna catch on to it, and then it'll still be a surprise. And sure enough, but when you watch it,
what happened? It still shocks you.
Yeah. When you watch it again, it's kind of funny now because she pretty much revealed the entire plot like the moment they walked in. This is
fucked up too. I just want to say because when they actually go to that was it 4th chapter where they go back to like before the movie, the non-linear part, what they do to those women in there was fucked, bro. I remember watching that thing and thinking, man, this is fucked, But you had to put heat on those guys.
That's right. And
he put nuclear heat on them, bro. I hated them after that scene. I wanted them to die.
They're just brutal killers. And the thing is that the only one that was there was Sanford Smithers. He was already there kicking back, and he just got caught up, but they fucking make him shut the fuck up. and you know, he
Of
doesn't
course.
say anything.
The scene with Smithers and Marquise Wallace or whatever, that's like one of the best scenes in the whole movie, bro. Like, you know, with the whole the son, he sucked my dick or whatever.
Yeah.
It was. This is a genuinely funny. This is a really funny movie as well. It because Walton Goggins plays a great. I don't want to say a little fella, but he has little fella tendencies in this movie.
Right, but he ends up becoming the star of the movie. He becomes a hero at the end.
At the end, yeah.
Chris Mannix, he's a sheriff, by the way.
And he says that a bunch of times in the movie as well. I'm the sheriff.
So the only one that smells a rat from the very beginning is Major Marquis, Samuel L. Jackson, because something doesn't sit right with him, and he starts connecting the dots. And he has that great scene with Senor Bob, who calls him mi negro amigo, which pops me every time he says it, bro.
Marco the Mexican.
¿Qué pasó, mi negro amigo? So
Oswaldo Mowbray, bro. You know, I've still got the book that came with the movie because the movie came with the book.
Yeah, I have it too. I have it framed with all the other shit.
Actually, yeah.
So it's like you said, it's a whodunit, and then at the end of the day, they realize who it was, and then Sam Jackson he kills fucking Senor Bob by blasting him in the head, and then Shannon Tatum shoots him in the balls because he's been hiding under the basement the whole time. So this has a very dark ending. It's a very tragic ending because really nobody lives. Everybody dies at the end.
Right.
And Tarantino said that the movie The Thing was a big influence because The Thing ends the same way, you know, with Kurt Russell and the black dude. One of them has the alien in them, but eventually they're gonna take it to the city or they're gonna die, and that's how The Thing ends. So it's pretty much the same two characters are here.
And again, another period piece. It's more of a Western. It kind of is a Western, I would say, but a different kind of Western.
Yeah, no, it is a Western. I would consider a Western.
Well, it's just comedy Western.
And then this film also relies on the dialogue. It's very dialogue heavy, but Tarantino surrounded himself with great charismatic actors who pulled it off. Because once they're in the cabin, it's all about getting to know the characters, and you have all these scumbags. Because even John the Hangman Ruth, he's also a scumbag, even though he's on the side of good, because he's brutal, bro. He wants to hang this woman, even though everybody tells him just kill her and then get the bounty. He's like, no, he's
excited to hang her. He's like looking forward to it.
That's right. It's not so much that he wants to hang her, bro. He's marking out over hanging her, bro.
He is, bro. He's great. He's great in this movie.
The bitch gotta hang.
Remember, he looks like our boy. God, what's his name, bro? From Puerto Rico. We always mark out for this guy. I forgot his name now. From the Dutch Mantel, bro. He's like Dutch Mantel in this movie.
He does, bro. He does.
Yeah, he's like Dutch, dirty Dutch.
And then also, I don't know how this. I mean, we were already in the overly sensitive PC era, but he abuses this woman, bro. He punches her
in the face, knocks out her teeth.
And then remember, she marks out because Sam Jackson has that fake letter from the president.
That's right. The letter from the president.
She starts laughing, and then he just gets his bowl of stew and he throws her in her face, bro. Like he abuses this poor woman big time. But Jennifer Jason Leigh did a fucking great job, bro. She was awesome as this annoying fucking bitch.
Yeah, agreed. And she's actually not really ugly in real life, bro. Like she's not terrible at all, but they made her look terrible in this movie.
Yeah, but also they had to bruise her up after this guy fucking punched her throughout the whole movie.
Of course, yeah.
But I guess at the end he got his comeuppance, and that's really what I guess at the end of the day that's really what Quentin Tarantino was going for. Is like I'll get away with this because at the end she blasts his ass and then he dies.
He dies. Yeah, she gets her revenge. But even though she's the villain. So, but he's also a villain. It's one of those movies where it's like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. The characters and Jackie Brown, the characters in this movie are bad people. Society would paint them as being bad people, but yet you got to have a baby face. But at the same time, like it's hard to pick who the baby face is here because you know what I mean? Because they're all douchebags, you know?
Well, Tarantino's influence here was from a lot of the Westerns and a lot of the films from the 50s and the 60s, where you always had the villains. You get the whole movie, and then at the end, they'll go to a shack, and that's where the movie would end. And then either that or the movie would start with them coming out of the shack and going to like right here is Red Rock, right? Everybody talks about Red Rock. That's
right.
The destination.
And again, we never even see Red Rock. Another thing, he does this in every movie, bro.
So the whole idea here is like he would always say like, what the fuck happens when they're all stuck in the fucking shack? Like, well, we never see that. We always see them before the shack or after the shack, but we never see them when they're in the actual shack. Like, you have a bunch of killers, something's got to give, and so that's why that was his motivation to write this movie. So it's more like a stage play in a lot of ways too. Like it's just like a big play that's kind of being performed right in front of your eyes.
It felt like a play. It really did. That's a great observation. It definitely
Yeah.
felt like a play. Did you know that he was going to do a sequel to Django called Django in White Hell?
I didn't know that.
He was going to do that. He said he was going to do it as a novel, and then he was like, nah.
I think the one that just got really a lot of traction was Kill Bill 3. That's pretty much it.
He said that he was going to do Kill Bill 3, but now he might be doing Star Trek, even though it hasn't been officially announced yet, has it?
No, but he's leaning to it. It's pretty much almost there.
That's going to be wacky, bro. That's going to be the wackiest Star Trek movie ever. I mean, why do you think this movie doesn't get that much love, bro? I love this fucking movie. It's my third favorite one of the whole discography or filmography.
I don't know. Maybe because it's very intimate and it's very talky, but I think the dialogue hits. I think it's a great film. It's up there with one of my favorites as well.
They're saying that Hateful Eight's a box office disaster, and the police officers who boycotted the movie are taking credit. Like, what is this? That's some BS. But this movie came out a week after Star Wars: The Force Awakens, so that might have hurt it. Remember that Tarantino got pissed because he got bumped out of the theater?
Yeah, well, the Cinerama Dome, which plays a lot into Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, by the way. The Cinerama Dome, which is here in Hollywood, he made it in 70 millimeter, so he made it for that. Because the Cinerama Dome, what it is it's got that screen that curves. So essentially, when you sit down, you're kind of surrounded by the movie. It's not just a screen up in the front; it actually curves around.
It's true IMAX, basically.
Yeah. So he made it for that format, and then when Star Wars came out, he got the boot, and he was pissed. And
we have a Cinerama Dome here. The only problem is you have to sit in the middle because otherwise your neck's gonna hurt. Your neck will hurt in that big ass dome, bro. You get up and down, left and right, because the screen's that big.
Yeah, there's not a lot of Cineramas. There's not really but you're lucky you got one because it's
it's not called Cinerama, but it's called IMAX Dome. Same thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So they actually the screen's curved, but that was a big controversy at the time, and it still got nominations. I mean, it was still like critically acclaimed. People still liked it.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked it a lot. So that's going to do it for this episode of the Geekdom101 podcast. Would you like to come back maybe on here or on the channel to talk about Once Upon a Time later this week?
Yeah. After you watch it, we'll come back and we'll connect it. And then later on, we'll give people the full-blown Pulp Fiction 25th anniversary episode.
Yeah, I'm going to go see Once Upon a Time at like 4 o'clock on Thursday. I have an early showing. So I'll be out of there at like...
Man, these fucking showings are getting like...
Yes, they are. Dude, it used to be at 7, right? Then I saw Venom at 5. Then the Pikachu movie from a couple months ago, that was at 4. So now they're doing it at 4 on Thursdays.
I don't get it anymore because they used to be limited engagement.
It used to be
midnight because they open on Friday, but now because of the post 87 crybabies, they're putting them early.
Is that really why?
Might as well open it up on fucking Wednesdays while you're at it, bro.
I think they will eventually. I mean, remember, Spider-Man opened up at midnight on a Monday, but that was 4th of July.
Yeah, it was 4th of July weekend. So, because Midsummer also came out on Tuesday. That Tuesday.
I thought it was that. Oh no, it was Tuesday. Yeah, I didn't see it till like Wednesday. But, anyways, that's it. Thanks for being here.
All right, thank you for having me, and we'll catch your ass down the road.
We'll talk to you on the next one. Do you have any final thoughts about Tarantino?
No, man, just he delivers all the time. I mean, like I said, no spoilers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, but it's a 9 out of 10 for me. And go check it out. It's a fun movie. It's if you like Quentin Tarantino films, this is just gonna add to his legacy, you know. So it's wacky and it's fun and it's everything we've come to love about the guy. So go check it out.
We'll talk to you next time.